All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the end of July, so you all know what time it is. Let's go ahead and get started with the reflections of July. For One Piece! Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here. As many of you may know, and this is for people who are not a regular here, I take the time at the end of every month to go over the chapters of One Piece that we get with each month. Now, in opposition of the 2 chapters that we got back in the month of June, we have 3 chapters this time. And I want to say they are some of the most, I'm not going to say gut-wrenching, but they are some of the most brutal we've seen in Elbaf in a minute. Like, we've seen a lot of brutal combat. I think the most brutal combat we've seen was during God Valley. Yeah, I want to say the most brutal combat we've seen was during God Valley, and then we saw more of it when we had Loki versus Herald, and then in the present day, we had Emu versus basically everyone, and we just witnessed just how uncaring of human life Emu and the Holy Knights have been. But these 3 chapters pretty much cemented that Emu is on a totally different level than any other person that Luffy has faced. And that includes Kaido. So the chapters we got was chapters 1187, 88, and 1189, which pretty much has Luffy in a far worse state than we've ever seen him. So, beginning with chapters 1187, and I forgot to bring up the page here, so forgive me. Chapters 1187, titled The Root of the Problem, shows basically the continuation of Luffy punching Emu in chapters 1186, much to the shock of Loki, and he sends Emu flying. And mind you, Emu is flying, blood is coming out of his mouth, but he still manages to fire off 2 omens, which go and attach themselves to both Loki and Luffy. Hold on, let me make sure. Are we good? Yeah, it looks like we're good. Yeah, it was just momentarily stopped there. But he sends out 2 omen flames. One attaches itself to Luffy, the other one attaches itself to Loki. And Loki goes, that was a pretty good shot, I'll admit. But it only happened because of all the damage I put on him first. This is literally banter going back. This is literally like Gimli levels of banter. Oh, you only managed to do that much damage because I got my axe embedded in his nervous system. I really need to watch The Lord of the Rings again. It's such a wonderful movie trilogy. But Loki's all like, oh, that was a good punch. And everything. That was a good punch and everything, but I kind of did more stuff to him first, so you only managed to... I loosened him up for you, you know? So, but Luffy's not paying attention to that. He's going like, hey, you're hurt really bad. You're really hurt. Step back and rest a bit. And Loki's all like, rest? Who are you talking to? Mind you, this is the same Loki that has been impaled by Emu's Gram blade beforehand. We get more into that in the last chapter we got for this month. But they start noticing the flames that are attaching themselves to them. And Emu is right back up again. And Luffy's trying to put out the fire, and he's going like, ow, ow, huh? It's hot. I mean, it stings. So these omen flames are more than just simply black flames that exude the same amount of heat that you would normally see from your average flame. Yo, Flip, what is going on? And I forgot to turn off live chat translation because stuff that people say to me is going to be translated even though it's supposed to be normal. Sorry about that. I forgot to change that back. And there we go. Yo, good to see you, Flip. So, these omen flames are not like your trademark regular flames. They're hot, but it's more like stinging heat rather than burning heat. The same way Marco's flames, when he uses them, are not the type of flames that can harm you. but you feel heat from it, but it's not a heat that is capable of actually burning you. That's the reason why when it comes to Marco and he's using his flames, they are more concussive than they are actually burning. They're more than they are heat based. They're more, yeah, to me, those omen flames are not exactly to burn. It seems they're specifically targeters. They're there to lock on for another more powerful attack. That's the same thought. That's the same thought I'm having. So, because in this chapter, Luffy's going like, it's hot. I mean, it stings. What is this black fire? And Imu's right back up, literally already flying towards them after Luffy punched him. Whoa, he looks way scary up close. And Imu is holding his jaw while he's causing a bell-shaped omen flame to appear in between his fingers. And the flames start speaking to each other.
We're supposed to go to his chest, where the sword was stuck, yeah?
And the flames, which chapter are we on? The first chapter we got for the month. We are on 1187. You literally showed up here while I started talking about everything, so you're right here on time. Zakaruga, good to see you. Don't know why it was holding your message in for review because you just said hey to me, so that's weird. And I don't even have moderation set up that way, so I don't understand why I did that. It's good to see you, Zakaruga. I hope your day has been wonderful. But the flames start speaking to each other, then they start moving to the open wound that is on Loki. And then we get a new move during this chapter, during this time, from Imu called Blade of Hatred Stigma. And while it shows Imu holding up his hand towards his eye as if he's aiming, that bell all of a sudden turns into a massive black torrent that Luffy sees and immediately dodges out of the way from. And it speeds up to where those black flames on Loki are, and it turns into a giant sword that proceeds to pierce Loki again. Except in complete opposite of Gram, when he was stabbed with Gram, it was merely like big enough for him to be impaled on it. But this one is a far bigger sword that pretty much gores an entire, much larger hole within Loki. So this is a brand new attack that he had, a brand new attack from Imu. And this is the reason why I said at the beginning of this that there are levels to Imu's power. We have seen, and we're going to go through all the powers of Imu, okay? All the stuff that has been collected, all the knowledge that we know of his powers thus far. And this dude's entire repertoire is insane. He truly is an endgame level boss due to all the stuff that he can do. I really want to go into it right now, but I'm going to wait until we get to the last chapter that we got this month, and then we'll go over it. Also, how does my voice sound? I put up new paneling on my walls, so now you guys don't get so much of a very loud, echoey type sound whenever I'm speaking. And I think that works better, so it's not just like terrible reverb that keeps coming in. So I'm very proud that I'm making my entire room, my entire workspace more studio-like, so you guys can get some of the best audio possible, and I'm really pleased with the current progress right now. Probably going to put some more stuff up. I might put some more panels on top of here, because I got more. I might put some more up here, and maybe put some more up here above my wall even more, so it can cut through some of the sound a little bit more, maybe put some on my opposite walls and everything. Side thing that I'm doing just to make everything I do from this point forward way better for you guys. Dude, Elbaf is so good right now. Last chapter I reread. Yes, we're gonna get to that. But using Blade of Hatred Stigma, Loki is gored even more than he was with Gram and is sent flying. And while that's going on, we cut back to the ice block that Gunko is stuck inside. The rest of the Straw Hats are trying to figure out how to do it. Even Lightning's not capable of dissipating it. Jinbei tried taking it out, but nothing worked. And they're even wondering if this is truly ice. Nami's all like, is it diamond? Because, the possibility of it all. And Brooke is looking like, if it's anything but, let's see, who's saying this? What if it's actually diamond or something? And Nami goes like, diamond? But if it's anything but ice, then the woman inside has definitely suffocated. And before the Usopp can say anything further, Rooms lit, dude. Love the Kingdom Hearts shirt. I was actually replaying that game the other day, Kingdom Hearts 2. Yeah, there's nothing like playing classic Kingdom Hearts games on disc. I'm not even going to get into that whole situation with Sony right now because they're making very dumb decisions. That's all I'll say. But they're trying to think of how they're going to get Gunko out. And even Brooke is all like, but if I touch it, it feels cold. Or at least I imagine it would. And then Nami's all like, you can't tell if it's ice or not? And even Frankie's going like, wait, he's got a point. If I touch it, yeah, no, I can't tell either. Enough of the non-humans. Yes, it's cold. And when that happens, Loki comes sailing in and lands directly next to everybody. Pretty much, I want to say, it looks like his impact causes the ice block to drive into the wooden branch a little bit more, causing it to crack underneath. Not unless that's just, Nah, that's not exactly what happened because it's broken before Loki flies in. Sorry. I'm misreading the appearance of the pictures here. But Loki comes flying in and he's heavily impaired. He can't do anything. He's down. This is the attack that has him pretty much incapacitated for the rest of this fight. He had a wound here already and he was already bleeding profusely from it. Now he has an even bigger, deeper wound that just went straight through that same spot. Imagine like essentially a stab wound from like a dagger. And then you get stabbed by a Zweihander. Or like a giant, or like guts. Imagine getting stabbed by a regular straight sword. Then later on, you get stabbed by an ultra great sword. I'm using Elden Ring type of mentality here. Regular straight sword, okay, you're damaged. Then an ultra great sword, that's two-handed, and you get stabbed by that. That's essentially what happened to Loki here. And Ragnar comes flying in, bounces off of the ice block, and that impact causes the ice block to start to melt. And then Ragnar turns into its ice squirrel form and jumps up on top of Loki. And Brooke is all like, oh, look, everyone, the ice has suddenly begun to melt. Princess Shorty! Then we cut away from the Straw Hats and go to Emu and Luffy. And Emu is trying the same thing, the same Blade of Hatred stigma on Luffy. Luffy realizes that the flames are on his cloak, throws them off of him, and the stigma goes and proceeds to aim exactly where his cape used to be. So now Luffy doesn't have any shirt on. He's just, capeless now. But he starts jumping towards Emu, and when that happens, we cut away from this fight because we're getting Luffy versus Emu very soon. We cut to the Western Village at the Sea Cloud port, where Sommers is face-to-face with Zoro, who's making sure that he keeps Sommers from getting away. And Sommers goes, what are you doing here? This is Team Zoro right now. You're one of the 3 demons. Straw Hat Crew, you were in the village earlier. What do you want? You're gonna get hurt. You're the ones who ruined a feast between good old friends. So, forget about it. It's just 10 or 20 kids, that's all. I don't think... And this is the thing that gets me. Stuff that they just casually talk about. Stuff that they just casually toss aside. As if like, oh, what? We're just kidnapping 10 or 20 kids. That's all. It's no big deal. Forget about it. Every person with a single moral compass is all like, what? What do you mean just forget about it? These are kids! But for celestial dragons, especially the Holy Knights, they don't see these children as living beings. They see them as objects to be used to make the giants do whatever they want. Which is also the same reason why Sommers was intending to basically kill these kids. He literally was laughing his brains out when he thought about not only the kids dying, but also seeing the anguish of the parents lamenting the death of their kids, and was upset when none of them died. So him just going like, so forget about it. It's just 10 or 20 kids. That's all. Like there isn't an issue here. My companion will be retrieving the brats in no time and we'll be out of your hair. No fuss. As if them just merely saying that. As if them just merely saying that is like, oh, well, I understand. Have a good day. No, this is how you get your behind handed to you. Mess around and find out. He's like, the meter for messing around is increasing from like 2 to 5 to 7 all the way up. Well, it's past 9, okay? It's already past the mess around meter. And now they about to find out that you just don't mess with the Straw Hat crew. Especially with a nation they've been wanting to go to for a while. Mainly Usopp and Luffy, but you trying to take kids and interrupting they fun time. That gets you the belt. Fancy that. My companion just went towards the village, so my guess is that yours ain't coming back. Yeah? Mind if I ask why? Because he'll be dead. And then both Zoro and Salmer starts fighting. Yeah, ha 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 ha. I want to do voice acting, but I'm not going to do it this time. Do you have any idea how on top of our game we are? Mind you, Salmers is only saying this simply because he's being buffed by the Omen Ring around him. So he is so sure that this power of Emu is so infallible. And mind you, there are specific reasons on why he would think that, but his trust in Emu's powers, as if Emu's powers is so infallible that he's all like, well, you can't do anything to us now. I picked up an entire giant ship and threw it down below me. I jumped halfway across this nation. You think you can take me on right now? Not realizing that he's speaking to literally someone who defeated a member of a race of people who were called gods before they came in. Salmers is so annoying? Yes, he is. That's the reason why I give him such an annoying sounding grating voice whenever I go through chapters with him in it. That's specifically the reason. But Salmers and Zoro start fighting. Then we cut over to the Western Village itself while there's rain coming down over there. Over the Western Village, the rain was pouring down as though the sky itself had cracked in half. And it shows God of Rain Zaza basically grabbing all these kids and also causing havoc to all of these giants as well. And Sanji's going, okay, let's cover the facts. Problem 1. A monster bigger than the giants is taking the children away. Response. Unfortunately, I won't be saving the kids, as Zaza smashes an entire building while swiping away many giants at the same time. Problem 2. Their wailing mothers are an unbearable sight. Response. Unfortunately, the monster is a woman. I can't kick her. Added note, the giant warriors refuse to give up on taking back their children. Then it shows Ripley, who's reaching out for Kowloon and desperately trying to get her son back. And Kowloon is crying, saying, Mommy, I'm sorry I got caught again. Problem 3. I don't want to see a woman's tears, but I won't take part in that fight. Because you're the root of the problem. And it shows Sanji directly fighting Killingham. The giants might lose sight of you, but you can't escape from me. And it shows the both of them clashing above the skyline, within the vicinity of the village as well. You're tougher than you look. I'm putting a stop to all of this. You fool, there is an entire world of difference between toughness and immortality. Meanwhile, we just witnessed that there is a way to get past immortality. So trying to use immortality as a surefire way that you're going to win a fight really don't mean much when not a single one of your members was capable of fighting against the Roger Pirates and winning at all. So this is the same mentality that Logia users had near the beginning of the series. The same mentality that Logia users had near the beginning of the series, where they were so sure that no one would be able to get past their intangibility as the elements that they were. I think it was, who was it? Was it Kizaru or was it Blackbeard that said, no, it was someone else. Who was it who said that Logia users who rely too much on their devil fruit powers will suffer more when they actually suffer some actual physical damage? I'm trying to remember which character said that about Logia users. I can't remember who exactly it was. But the same way a lot of Logia users were so sure that their intangibility will save them all the time, only to be met by someone who's capable of bypassing their intangibility, this is the same manner in which people who have immortality are so sure that their immortality will save them at all. I think it was Eneru. Yeah. Devil fruit users who think they're invincible. I'm trying to remember the exact line. Devil fruit users who think they're invincible. It's not like, I can't remember the line. I can't remember the line. I gotta find it. I gotta find it. I gotta find it. I gotta find it. I gotta find it now. Peckham's. Peckham's. It was Peckham's. Yeah, after he brought down Caribou. Yeah. Peckham's. After he brought down Caribou, he said, devil fruit users who think they're invincible. Hold on. I'm trying to look at this webpage. This thing don't leave me alone. Logia users who think they're invincible tend to have short lifespans. Yeah, it was Peckham's who said that. It was Peckham's who said it. So the same way Peckham's described Logia users this way, I describe people who have immortality in the One Piece world as having sort of this same mentality as well. Because Killingham says, you fool, there's an entire world of difference between toughness and immortality. And that is why you cannot beat me, even if getting rid of me means that my powers will vanish, I suppose. And they're fighting each other, and mind you, Flip does bring up a good point. The clouds that are around Killingham are very similar to the flame clouds that Kaido would use in order to fly. So it seems that when you have like a mythical Zoan type ability that's, closely linked to either Japanese mythology or maybe even Chinese mythology, sometimes some of them appear to have flame clouds or clouds of some kind that allows for basically to have flight. Because everywhere that Killingham has been running to in all of these panels has clouds around his legs. But yeah, Killingham says, and that's why you cannot beat me, even if getting rid of me means that my powers will vanish, I suppose. So go on and try it. Can you eliminate the god of rain? Onward, my blustery deity, take those brats away. Oh, and then Zaza apparently can speak, going, oh, very scary. So she can speak. Well, I know what you people are weak against. Ha, what an amusing thing to say. Are you claiming you can use the color of the Supreme King? Go on and kill me if you can, and proceeds to use his spear. Mind you, it also shows that his spear gets covered in like black flames. And then he jabs it at Sanji and thrusts him straight into a building. Because I didn't notice that at first. Because as I'm looking at this panel, I noticed that, okay, all of a sudden, his trident that has like 3 separate elevated points on it, his spear has 3 separate elevated blade points on there, suddenly turns into a straight and narrow classical spear type shape at the end of it. So he's also using the Omen Flames to basically jab directly into Sanji. I still believe Sanji won't get Conquerors, and instead Omen in 1181, Imu says, Omen is my military might, a power that lurks within all things. This line tells me that Omen is something that can be achieved like hockey and not a power from the devil's fruit. I don't know, though. Because if it truly is something that can be learned all on its own, then why wouldn't the Holy Knights have access to the Omen Flames for themselves? Not unless it's something that's so rare that only Imu is capable of truly awakening it. But if that's the case, then what's to stop the Holy Knights from actually learning it themselves and powering themselves with Omen instead? I still lean in the direction that Omen is just yet another facet of the devil's fruit. I still feel, because the theme of Omen and what it tends to be a tribute to, and it lines up nicely with basically this devil fruit that is essentially devil demon based, that Omen is yet another opponent for it, because the thing is, and I'm not knocking what you're saying, I just feel that there's so much to this devil's fruit that we really don't know the upper limits of. We see that there's way more to it on the last chapter that we got this Sunday before last. So I feel like Omen is just another aspect of this particular fruit, given just how versatile and how powerful it is. Because we've seen him have the trademark abilities of a ton of different devil fruits all in one ability itself. The last time we had someone have like a bunch of different capabilities that are trademarks of different devil fruit types was essentially Marco. Because with the Tori Tori no Mi, he essentially has the intangibility of a Logia, the regenerative abilities of a Paramecia, and of course the obvious trademark traits of a Zoan. But those are just characteristics of devil fruit types, not necessarily different devil fruits in and of themselves. But Emu literally has many abilities that are just ripped straight from other devil fruits. Completely. Like the soul fruit, shadow fruit, the Ope no Mi with just basically instantaneous teleportation, the ability to conjure up different things out of a book with a grimoire, all sorts of different things. And I just feel that with this being Emu's power, it is way more vast than him just like, having like devil-based abilities and names and different traits and different powers and and such. I honestly feel that Omen is just yet another element to it. And given the fact that he's more than likely awakened, I would not be surprised if that is a result of that. Because what if Omen is an awakened ability for the Devil's Fruit? Not just being able to create contracts, because that seems to be, in covenants, that seems to be something that's linked to it being normal, but awakened allows Omen Flames to be used on the same way awakening can affect an environment away from a Devil Fruit user. I feel like Omen is an awakened ability that can affect other people around him. The same way when Gear 5 was activated, people started showing trademark cartoonish looking faces when Luffy's face came crashing into Onigashima after Kaido basically slammed his head down there. And everyone just all of a sudden had bugged out eyes. That was not a comedic effect. That was a result of it basically affect Luffy's Gear 5's awakening, affecting people around him. I see that with Omen, where it's capable of affecting people around Emu, and he can selectively empower people other than himself with Omen. But that's how I see it. Because with it only being in a power from the Devil's Fruit, that means that the Holy Knights themselves have to, as you say, have to rely on Emu in order to get that power. In order to get that boost. Because what better way can you swear fealty to a person far more powerful through you than making sure that they get a taste of power that they could not achieve themselves? I feel as though Domi Reversi, Covenants, and the Pentagram Travels are powers from the Devil's Fruit instead. In my mind, if they were to see Gear 4 without knowing exactly how Haki and the Gum Gum Fruit work, they would think they're both from the Gum Gum Fruit. Probably the same thing. Maybe. But I'm just of the mind that Omen is just all linked to Emu. It's not something that you can directly learn. Who knows? It could be the reverse case, and it could wind up being something that can be learned. It's just so incredibly difficult to master, let alone learn and use for yourself, that I feel that this is just a power of the Devil's Fruit. Because like I said, we don't know the furthest limits of this fruit. Because Emu is not even going all out here. He's just using enough to subdue everyone because that's just how strong he is. He doesn't need to go all out because there's no one he's faced so far that is capable of bringing him to this point. I mean, Emu says that Omen is within all things, so I can't believe that it is. And I can't say that Omen is something that can be learned just because Emu says that Omen is within all things. Because what would it be, like a counter to Haki? But at the same time, why is it that only Emu can use it? Now, if it does indeed turn out to be that Omen is separate from the Devil's Fruit and it can be learned, it can be channeled, it can be somehow activated, but it's incredibly rare, possibly even rarer than people who can get Conquerors, then I will fully admit that, okay, this is what it was all along. But I don't really see a reason for me to go down that path just yet. Because I feel like Omen is just, it just feels like something that can be, that's a part of the Devil's Fruit. That's just how I feel. That's just how I feel about it. We'll go over Emu's entire repertoire once we get down to it. But Killingham slams Sanji into a building, saying like, "So are you claiming you can use the color of the Supreme King? Go on and kill me if you can." And then Sanji's just laying there as the rubble is crumbling around him, with him remembering when Gavin was speaking to both him and Zoro, saying, "How do you expect to support your captain, an Emperor of the Sea?" And Zoro's all, sorry. "Hey, Gramps, what about me? Can I use Supreme King Haki?" "You should have the potential for it." "Really? However, in your case, for some reason, you possess a streak of masochistic instability. You must be a king too if you truly want to make Luffy the king of the pirates." So, while that's going on, we have the dun da 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 dun da 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 dun da 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 dun da da da, and Luffy goes into gear 5. And we get this big old panel saying, "Emperor of the Sea, Monkey D. Luffy versus King of the World, Narona Emu." With Emu going, "There thou art, Joy Boy." And Luffy just keeps hearing these names, Joy Boy and Nika. "Quit calling me all these different names. I'm Luffy, the man who will be king of the pirates." And that ends chapter 1187. However, the next chapter we get basically just cements that there are indeed levels to Emu that we have yet to see, and Emu is just basically flexing on everyone. I wouldn't say it's a counter, but it's likely a parallel to it. It's just so ancient that likely no one else knows how it works or even exists. Only time will tell. People are saying Emu has the best final villain design and aura out of the big three. Naruto had Kaguya, Bleach had Yuha. You agree? Kaguya Otsutsuki, Yuha Baha, Narona Emu. Honestly, for as long as a buildup we've had towards Emu, to find out that he's truly one of the big bads, if not the big bads, of One Piece itself, I would have to, you know what? I would have to agree a little bit that Emu's appearance is up there. I want to say at the top. Then after would be Yuha. I really like Yuha's design, especially when we get to his like near the end of the series design. And then there's Kaguya. I would have to say Kaguya is like at the bottom of that three. So I would have to go Emu, then Yuha Baha, and then Kaguya. But that's just how I see it. Truly can't accept Emu as the final villain, as is your right. Chapter 1188, Vohu. Good order. That's just how I feel. I feel like the appearance of Emu was such a secret that we never knew what Emu looked like. Then the first time Emu shows up, it shows him just basically aura farming in an appearance that does not surprise me at all. Then for Dragon Ball, we have Omega Shenron. Yeah, we do. I want to say that Omega Shenron is like the best final villain design for Dragon Ball. And then after that, it would have to be... After that, it would have to be Cell. So, Omega Shenron, Cell, Majin Buu, Majin Buu, and then Black Frieza. Because, I mean, it's just Frieza, but he's black colored. So, but Omega Shenron, Cell, Majin Buu, and then Black Frieza. I'm not even gonna put Gas up there because Gas was like, eh. And then after Black Frieza, I would have to say Moro. Moro had a nice design, but it was all right to me. It was all right to me. But chapter 1188, Vohu, and we have people calling in, and we have someone calling in, and this is apparently a memory from Emu when he first encountered Joy Boy. And this is when they first met each other. Of course, we don't see their faces, but we do get Joy Boy's smiling face, which is very reminiscent of Luffy's. And Emu goes, "Indeed, Joy Boy is long dead. So why dost thou remind Mu of that time?" And Emu is charging up, yet actually starts coursing omen flames around his body. And then it extends out of his arm, and Luffy goes, "How should I know?" And he tries to punch Luffy, but Luffy makes his head extend downwards. But in a way that's very similar to Luffy's very own Gum Gum Fruit, he makes his omen extended arm basically shift directions like his own Jet Culverin, and it comes down and it hits Luffy directly in the back of the head, just like he used against Doflamingo, just like he used against Katakuri, just like he used against Kaido. It just straight up smacks him in the head regardless of where Luffy dodged. So this is the first time someone has been able to use Luffy's very own move against him in such a hostile way. This is the first time. Even Katakuri didn't try to replicate what Jet Culverin did during their fight in Whole Cake Island. But Emu goes, "Oh, so you like to dodge? Fine, my fist will find you." The same way Darkseid's Omega beams are capable of finding their target regardless of where they need to go, because his beams, they don't just go in like perpendicular type straight lines. They are capable of just completely bending around. Like bending and curving, not just in, like straight lines, but they can curve. This is essentially the same thing that Emu can do. By basically coursing omen flames across his body, he can extend his reach and cause a simple punch to reach its opponent, even if that opponent was to make a sharp turn or go in a completely different direction than when he originally launched the attack from. So now Luffy's getting a taste of how he did Doflamingo and Katakuri dirty with his Jet Culverin and Black Mamba and all of his different attacks. Now Luffy's suffering because of this. Not only that, but the resulting punch also causes an explosion after Emu punches him all the way into the ground. And all after the dust settles, we get Luffy's twiddling his legs and he pops up out of it, upper half of his body just charred black, and he goes to punch Emu. Emu literally disappears. It's not like he just, shaves, Soru. He doesn't do that. He literally just teleports behind Luffy. Yeah, he just teleports behind Luffy and then prepares to try and stab him. But Luffy basically moves fast as well. He doesn't instantly teleport, but he moves fast as well. Feels like something was on the center of my eye there. And he moves out of the way, and Emu's is looking around as if to anticipate where Luffy's going to punch him from, but Luffy is still in front of Emu, and then proceeds to try and punch him multiple times, but Emu blocks all of it. This dude needs to be a playable character. He's got way too many moves to not be playable in another Pirate Warriors game. But Luffy is getting agitated, going, "I was able to hit you before." And then Emu charges up yet another Omen Flame, and then launches it at Luffy, and proceeds to blow up the area where Luffy is. And Luffy is just constantly running away over and over again as these Omen Flames, like all these Omen Flames, all that, brrr, literally. Just think about this for a second. This man is a walking weapon station. He literally can just aim the Omen Flames where he wants, and then just send countless amounts of them with very vast amounts of explosive potential wherever he wants. He doesn't even need to summon up a grimoire to take out a giant size flintlock double-barreled pistol and then shoot at his enemies. He literally can just shoot out Omen Flames all over the place that have just as much power as your regular cannon fire, just casually. So Luffy's running from all of these, and he sends out more Omen Flames. First, he's sending out regular Omen Flames just to blow up Luffy. Then he changes them into Omen Flames that can track him. See, I didn't mention this when I was going through this reaction before, because I just saw him opening fire on Luffy, and that's all I saw. And then I just thought it was the same thing, but I didn't notice how he changes from regular Omen Flame blasts into creating autonomous Omen Flames that actually start to track Luffy and start to follow him. Whoa, they're chasing me. Are there supposed to be bombs? Gum Gum Jet Gatling! And Luffy starts punching every single one of these Omen Flames individually, causing an explosion. Gum Gum Genie! And then we get a brand new move from Luffy, where he, in his Gear 5 state, mind you, he's in his Gear 5 state still, after all of this, he changes his entire appearance completely, gives himself genie bands, expands his body to like Robin Williams Aladdin size, changes his entire face so much in a way that we have never seen Luffy change his appearance while in Gear 5. And he starts laughing, going, ho, 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 ho. Oh yeah, I saw your fight with Loki, and I won't let his death be in vain. And Loki's all like, I'm still alive, you moron. Mind you, he's still coughing. And Luffy's in the back going and waving, going like, oh, hey, Loki, you're alive. And Imu's just silently watching like, this utter buffoon. This is supposed to be Joy Boy? Now, we get more into that, but let's see. While Joy Boy sounds like he sneaked in or got an old oh wait, let me see what you said before. I love that conversation because it heavily implies they were kids playing with radios that weren't theirs. Emu sounds like a king's kid that's been tinkering on how to use a radio, how to talk to people, and how to address subjects before actually getting to it on a radio that's borrowed without permission. You got all of that from that one conversation? While Joy Boy sounds like he sneaked in or got an old radio and is just without much thought going channel to channel seeing who's around to talk to. I love how much you can get from a few lines. You truly got that from that? It'd be funny if both Emu and Joy Boy did indeed meet when they were children. But, continuing on, Emu aims more tracking Omen Flames at Loki this time, because they're kind of relatively close to where Loki is. They're at least within striking distance. That's the thing. And Emu aims more Omen Flames at him, going like, oh crap. Move, Ragnir! And Jinbei comes in with Arabesque Brick Fists. Karak Sagawara Seiken. I incorrectly called it the Gosen Maigara, but it's Karak Sagawara. And he blocks the Omen Flames. The power of a Gyujin karate master, of a fishman karate master, and I'm just gonna punch the air, and it's going to create a shield just by manipulating the moisture in the air to keep even the flames of Emu from touching you. That's sick. That will always be sick to me. So, Jinbei is now in protection of Loki. And he says, Luffy, do you want me to make sure he's protected? Yeah, perfect, thanks, Jinbei, he's my pal. And Loki's all like, I ain't nobody's pal, stupid pipsqueak. Alright, I can do that, you focus on the fight. And everyone's looking at Luffy going like, wait, that's Luffy? He's fighting that guy from before. Is he gonna be alright? Who is that guy anyway? And then Brook chimes in, going, the only people higher than the Knights of God are supposed to be the 5 elders, as far as I know. So maybe he's the Knights commander? I bet that's it. Usopp not realizing that he literally called down the thunder of the one who stands above the 5 elders, literally the highest authority in the world. Usopp still not putting them together. There is no group more shrouded in mystery than the world government, which is why they continue to try and find, imprison, or kill anyone who tries to find out the true history of the world. Because they want that secret to be kept. They don't want anyone to know. They don't want anyone to realize how the world government came to be. Because if they did, and I said this years ago, If the world found out the world government's true origins, it would change how the entire world views the world government, and things would get so much worse for them. I said this years ago. The moment we find out more about how the world government truly came to be, and the story that I know for a fact, no wonder I felt something on my eye. I was brushing denim a little bit earlier on, a little dog hair got everywhere. But Emu was the one who, the world government doesn't want anyone to know their origins because it could ruin their entire standing with the citizens that they have under their thrall. People could revolt. It would give even more reasons for the Revolutionary Army to exist because of the world government's history. And we know that the world government is incredibly shady because if it really wasn't that much of an issue, the Five Elders wouldn't have showed up to try and stop Vegapunk from saying what he said down on Egghead. All 5 of them? Why would you all leave in order to appear there if it wasn't truly something that was worth them getting out of the room for? And we've never seen them leave. So the moment we find out about the true history of the world government might be one of the biggest mysteries of One Piece that is revealed. I cannot wait on the day we find out the origins of the world government and everything that goes through that. So we can say, now I see why they keep trying to kill people every single time they try to learn anything about the Void Century or about the true history of the world. I can understand it now. But there is no group more shrouded in mystery than the world government. And it shows the ice melting more and more. Yeah, it shows the ice melting more and more. And Emu is looking at everyone trying to tend to Gunko, trying to get her out, going, Gunko, couldst thou not break that ice? A man with an afro, calling Gunko Princess Shuri. Could it be? Ravi, it's good to see you. Welcome. Imagine Luffy said, Jinbei, I want you to do more than just protecting. If Jinbei joined in, I don't know. I actually don't know how well Jinbei would do against Emu. Given the fact that not even giants with all their strength was capable of doing anything against Emu, because Emu was capable of slicing off Gert's fingers without her even realizing that she lost fingers until she actually saw her fingers fall off. So I don't know how much Jinbei would be able to do. But Emu is starting to realize that, that man with that skeleton with the afro. He doesn't even refer to Brook as a skeleton. He says that a man with an afro calling Gunko Princess Shuri. Could it be? Gum caught you slipping, bullet! And Luffy goes in to punch Emu with a Haki-imbued genie punch. Because it's specifically a genie punch because he's still within this genie form. And Emu just casually blocks it with one hand. So, my thing is, when your opponent starts blocking you, and you've grown to a much larger size than your opponent, and they block you with one hand, I would be careful. If Zoro and Sanji couldn't do anything, I doubt Jinbei would be any different. Loki attacked him 7 times and only 1 attack went through while Emu was heavily distracted. Yeah, that was only the only time that Loki managed to land a solid hit on Emu was when Emu was distracted from yelling at Joy Boy. You know, the only time we saw Emu have like an actual face fault and actually show some more emotion other than just, you know, blank poker face. But that was the only time. And despite that, Loki still suffered some injury from that. Still suffered some injury before that even happened, because that's when he got stabbed. It was only when Emu was distracted that landed. And it was also when Emu was distracted that Luffy managed to land a hit on him. Since Emu is not distracted anymore, Luffy's abilities and his punches and attacks are not landing either. Weirdly enough, though, the only other Straw Hat to do damage to Emu was Usopp. And mind you, this is Emu who literally teleported in front of Usopp and dared him to shoot him. And was still fine. And mind you, This was when Imu was possessing Gunko. So when Imu's not distracted, anything you use against him really doesn't work. Ain't that crazy? Because the only time it's actually worked was when he was momentarily distracted. Imu was distracted by thinking of Joy Boy. He gets punched in the face by Luffy. He's distracted screaming at Joy Boy, and then he gets hit by Loki. Mind you, those things happen in reverse, but now that he's focused and he's centering on Luffy, anything that Luffy's been launching at him isn't working. Were thou not watching earlier? And then all of a sudden, he brings up more Omen Flames and puts them on Luffy's genie beard. And he tries to use Stigma on Luffy, but Luffy switches from his genie form. Ooh. Okay, Denim's being difficult in the other room. The God Knights are in your house. They want you to join. I'll sooner say Sony made a good decision on going discless in 2028 before I ever joined the Holy Knights. That's how serious I mean it. But Imu uses Stigma. Luffy falls out of his genie state and tumbles away, and then Imu sends more moving Omen Flames towards Luffy. And Luffy basically does like that cartoony move where you're preparing to run, and then you just turn into like a puff cloud that just shows your body shape. So he just prepares to basically speed off like Roadrunner. He's essentially moving like Roadrunner now. He just goes like, pew, and then starts running away. And the Omen Flames continue to chase after him. Then Imu drops to the ground, and he takes his spear, spins it, and it turns into an Omen Flame. It turns into an Omen Flame. This is another thing that supports my idea that the Omen Flames themselves is an aspect of his power, simply because he's literally turning an object into a flame and it's going into the ring around him. It's literally turning into something different, a different type of material, a different type of element in and of itself, a different object entirely, and going into his ring that's around his body. And then, after that happens, a different weapon comes out, and it's a long cutlass called Blade of Nothingness, Vohu. And merely holding this sword out, this sword literally causes the trees and branches around him to wither and die almost instantly. He hasn't even cut into a tree, hasn't even waved it around. He literally just pulls it out. And then just its mere presence of being out causes everything to wither and die around him. Now, at the time, we didn't know what it would do to a human body. But as he's holding it out, by the way, something else I noticed when this chapter came out, the Omen Ring has 17 eyes, which might be be that each one represents a weapon of the 20 kings, obviously Nerona or Nefertiti not included. That's something interesting. So, he holds out the sword, and every branch within his immediate vicinity just withers and dies, including trees that are on the far off distance from where he's brandishing this sword. So it's like, it's just sucking the life out of everything just by it being out. And it's still crazy that this is a weapon that exists. This is a weapon that exists within the world of One Piece. We've seen weapons that are capable of forcibly causing people's haki to be taken from their bodies. Unless you're strong and capable enough, this sword will indeed literally rob you of your life because you're that weak. That's Enma. That's what Zoro has. But now we have a sword that is capable of literally killing everything around it, plant life-wise, just by being out. We have another sword. We have another weapon that is capable of doing more than just simply cutting. It actually has unique properties in and of itself that isn't directly influenced by a devil fruit being embedded in the sword. That's the difference. Because we've seen devil fruits being imbued into objects before. This is the first one where a devil fruit isn't necessarily infused into the object, but it's actually an aspect of it. It's actually an object that is being infused. Imbued and infused are completely different things. Infused with the whatever power this is, and we don't even know if this is an aspect of the devil's fruit being imbued into the sword, or if it's something that's unique to the sword in and of itself. But we find out that there's more than one sword that can have this sort of property. So while Luffy's running around, he sees all these trees just dying, all of them. And Imu goes, the view is much clearer now. By the way, that being said, because we know Somers and Killigam have a weapon, it means that the one Imu is currently using is not the 18th king. It might be that the body we're seeing isn't Imu's, but of the 18th. So Imu sees Luffy flying up in the air going, the view is much clearer now. Same from up here. And then while that happens, Imu literally jumps from where he is and launches towards Luffy in an instant going, of course I know that thou art not Joy Boy, and surprises Luffy. And then there's a shoom sound as Luffy immediately starts coughing out blood. And then all of a sudden, the Omen Flames continue to land towards where Luffy is going, go, go! And Luffy is screaming out loud as Imu looks at Luffy and says, Joy Boy was not this weak. And it ends this chapter with Luffy literally being impaled on this sword. Literally being impaled on this sword. We have never seen Luffy put in such a state since Crocodile. I don't know if it was clear enough. I did try to cram in the character limit. Yeah, no, it's not a matter of me not understanding it. It's more so a matter of I don't know what implications that the body that Imu's using isn't his, but belongs to the body of someone else. That's the one that can make me go like, huh. But not since Crocodile have we seen Luffy ever impaled on anything like this. Least of all, in a state where he's far stronger than he's ever been. And mind you, he's in his Gear 5 state in this case right now. If this was truly a body-changingly grievous wound, then he would have left Gear 5. But we see in the next chapter, after we're done with this one, that he doesn't leave Gear 5 at all. But the fact that he was stabbed just completely through the body and just held. And the thing is, Luffy is the size of a child compared to the size of Imu. Imu is literally holding up Luffy as if he was like an extra large action figure on his sword, just holding him up going like, Joy Boy was not this weak. This is the chapter where I say like, oh, there are levels to Imu's power. Because if Luffy is not on a level of where Joy Boy was, that means he still has a ways to go before he ever gets Joy Boy strong. So this is interesting. I think we're missing the fact that Emu has been able to take out 19 swords only after the world government was formed. So how powerful was Emu even without these swords to defeat Joy Boy? So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that all the things we've seen of Emu in terms of power, we have not even seen the full crux of what Emu can do. Because if what Luffy is doing and what Emu is doing right now isn't on the level of Joy Boy, then that means Emu's been holding back. Emu hasn't even really begun to escalate his abilities. That's the... Hold on. We haven't even begun to see Emu actually escalate things as if he's in a dire strait. Okay, OMG, what a chapter. I am reading along with you while eating food. This gives me Alabasta vibes. Love that panel. This feels like old school One Piece. Yeah, because in that panel where Crocodile was holding up Luffy, that's basically how they ended that chapter back then in the Alabasta arc, right? That's basically how they ended it with Luffy versus Crocodile's very first fight. It ended with Luffy impaled on his hook. And we're ending this chapter so many years later with Luffy impaled on the end of Emu's sword. Oh yeah, I mean that because there's clearly an 18th eye missing if it's supposed to each represent the 18 kings that followed Norona Emu. One would assume it's because he pulled one out to use as a sword, but it's obviously not the case, so where's the 18th eye? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, there's 17 eyes on this ring. Specifically from the angle we're looking at, there's 17 of them. So it does remain to be seen, like, where the extra eye is at, or even if the eyes have any real relevance to the number of people from the world government that, became the kings that line up the weapons inside the empty throne. It remains to be seen if that is the case, but it would be an interesting nod if it represents every king that sweared fealty to Emu. And this is the reason why in the next chapter Shanks says, finding out who Emu is just leads to more questions. It literally just leads to more questions. Why eyes? Why specifically the eyes? This could literally be like Mihawk using his butter knife to defeat Zoro. Exactly the case. If Joy Boy was so much stronger than Luffy to push Emu to do more than what we've witnessed Emu do since he's been on Elbaf, then that means that Emu has been vastly holding back and just using enough power to fight both Loki and Luffy to the point where they're grievously injured. Because Loki is not out. Loki is out. He's incapacitated. And now Luffy's been heavily impaled. So now just imagine how strong Joy Boy was. But that's the end of chapter 1188. Now to the last chapter of this month, 1189, King of the World. And it continues to show Luffy being impaled on Vohu. And while that happens, Emu proceeds to fly towards a tree and then proceeds to embed Luffy on it. And this is also the chapter where Usopp's observation haki starts to trigger once more since Dressrosa, which is insane to me that the next time we see Usopp having some semblance of observation haki sense is literally years after the events of Dressrosa again. And he can sense that something is wrong with Luffy. And now he's asking, what's going on? What happened? Luffy's okay, right? What do you mean? Don't scare me. When has Luffy ever not been okay? I mean, the many times that the opponents he's faced were stronger than him momentarily and they beat him in their first fights, Crocodile and Doflamingo and Kaido and pretty much Emu right now. A lot of opponents he's faced off against, quite a few, and Magellan as well. That's one opponent that Luffy just was effortlessly beaten by. Magellan, I want to say Magellan is the only person that brought Luffy the closest to dying aside from Kaido. And on Magellan's side, he really didn't suffer too much at the hands of Luffy. Compared to every opponent that Luffy has faced, Magellan has been the only one to actually remain standing after his altercation with Luffy and not have like a lasting hit come down on him as a result of them fighting. Because even when Luffy landed his his jet bazooka. Yeah, it was jet bazooka because Eni's lobby is Eni's lobby was way after this point. So when Luffy landed jet bazooka on Magellan, that was enough to momentarily stun him, but not knock him down. Magellan is pretty much the only person in One Piece that has effortlessly handled Luffy on his own and still managed to walk away completely. Luffy was left just completely unable to fight after that. So that's the only opponent. But here we have a new one. And it's Emu. And he impales Luffy on a tree. Now, going back to when Nami says, when has Luffy ever not been okay? When he's facing opponents who are vastly more superior than him. Now, mind you, those moments tend to be kind of temporary a grand majority of the time. But with Emu, it is like what you will say, it's like the Lich King from Adventure Time, where Emu is essentially the Lich King from Adventure Time, where he looks at Luffy and goes, "You are strong, child, but I am beyond strength." It is literally something similar to that. And Luffy is unable to fight against this power because he's just stuck on the tree. Considering what it means that, consider what it means that this enormous giant was defeated, Nami. And mind you, Jinbei's the only one who's all like, when Nami says, when has Luffy ever not been okay? Jinbei's all like, just think for a moment what it means if this giant, with all the power that he has, was literally tossed over here towards us. What type of opponent Luffy is facing right now? And then Loki's going like, hey, Fishman, who's been defeated? And Jinbei's going like, there's no doubt that Luffy's haki suddenly grew much weaker. Jinbei can tell that something's definitely going on because Luffy's his haki is no longer as powerful as it was when he was first over there. Mind you, remember, strong members of the Straw Hat crew could tell that Shanks' haki was in Wano, or at least someone's very powerful haki was emanating within Wano, while the Akazaya 9 were facing off against Ryokugyu. Jinbei was among those people, so he knows what he's talking about when he can sense monstrous haki. Stuck on the tree, this man has no organs anymore and life was sucked out of him. I'm sure being pinned isn't the only thing stopping him from continuing. I'm just talking about like just the most basic things. We'll get towards the whole vitality draining aspects of Vohu and all these different weapons in a minute. I'm just saying, out of all the things that have happened to Luffy, him being stuck on a tree, it is indeed it's the least of his problems at this time. Because he's got a sword that is capable of draining life just by being out in the open. But Jinbei knows what he's talking about when he's like, this haki is strong. And every strong member of the Straw Hat crew who can sense haki are like, oh, Emu's haki is monstrous. What is this? So Jinbei saying Luffy's haki has suddenly grown much weaker. He knows what he's talking about. So we cut to not Jinbei, but Frankie and Brook, because Shuri has been completely thawed out from the ice. And Brook is trying to, trying to wake her up. But Ragnar is trying to interfere and stop him while Usopp is aiming, going like, it's safe, right, Brook? If she's still the scary version. And in this moment, we get Harudin and Gerd, and they come flying in. And, well, they lose control. And Loki is unable to do anything as the spar lands directly on them. Mind you, Gerd is saved relatively by Chopper using his guard point, but the entire spar lands on Loki. Mind you, this dude had already got impaled straight through his body. So now imagine you get impaled through your body by a giant blade of flame blade, and then all of a sudden someone crashes a boat on you. I'd be upset too. So they land, and Usopp goes like, "What were you guys trying to do?" Harudin, Gerd, Chopper. And then Gerd starts hugging up on Chopper, saying like, "Oh, thank you, Chopper. You're so cute and helpful." And then, of course, Chopper starts taking in the compliments. I don't think you can butter me up, you jerk. So Gerd is looking at Loki going, "There's no time to waste. Loki, show me your wounds." And she's completely mortified to see all the harm that he's suffered. Mind you, she's still trying to help Loki, despite the fact that she literally just got her fingers sliced off moments before. Because it's only been a short amount of time between her fingers getting sliced off, and then all of a sudden, Emu starts fighting everybody else. So she's still coming in to try and help people, despite the fact that she's been, her hands have been moderately dismembered. And she's not supposed, and the thing is, Chopper just told her that you need to rest and try not to move them too much because it's going to be a while before your fingers can reattach again. She's already trying to come in here and help, and even finds herself being in a crash that could kind of undo everything that Chopper has actually done for her fingers. So, well, finger and thumbs. So she's tending to Loki, going like, "You're all bloody, oh no." "Yeah, and some of that was because of you. What are you doing here?" And Harudin is thinking back to when he was speaking to Chief Jarl, going, "If you're going to fight, Harudin, then go to Loki instead." "But the children!" "Even if you save the children, it is only a temporary reprieve. Do you really think that this plan to rule over Elbaf came from the decision makers at the Reverie?" "Of course not. I think it's him." And Chief Jarl clearly knows that Emu exists. Mind you, Chief Jarl is one of the longest-lived individuals in the world, aside from anyone granted immortality by Emu well before 340-something years. And we go back to the present, and we have Harudin going, "Loki, do you know who that guy is?" "Yeah, I think I do." And the smoke is starting to build up around where Emu is, and he summons out yet another sword and goes, "Thou canst not move now. That sword devours thy vitality." And mind you, Luffy is coughing and he's wheezing and he's still bleeding, and his eyes are starting to haze over. "How many will it take to end thee?" "Monkey D. Luffy, a hateful name. Thou hast two brothers of different names, knowing about Sabo and knowing about Ace. One brother slaughtered by the Navy. And while he does that, he has like another straight sword and he brings it towards a branch, and the branch doesn't just drain all the way down to like a withered branch. It literally drains to the point where it starts to turn to dust and crumble, literally being in the vicinity of the sword. So not only do these swords drain the life of the objects around them, but it also causes them to die the longer that object is closer, that sword or that weapon is close to it. It's not just draining it until it's withered, it drains it until it basically snaps in on itself. One brother slaughtered by the Navy, Ace. The other prominent within the Revolutionary Army, Sabo. Blade of the sea god Fraggarok. And he then proceeds to stab Luffy again. So not only does Luffy have a sword that drains his vitality and strength, but now he has another one just stabbed into his body. In any case, a set of most uncouth brothers. And Luffy continues to cough. And we get back to Loki going, "It's gotta be him. The one red hair talked about." And we cut back to moments after Harold is killed by Loki. Back with Gabin and back with Shanks going, "I'll use this power to avenge the memory of my old man and his soldiers." And Gabin is just looking, and we get Shanks going, "Wait, Loki, I understand your rage, but what do you want, red hair? Are you gonna stop me from getting revenge for my father? I considered Harold a friend too, I'd be right there with you. But think carefully now. The government was trying to take control of Elbaf. That's not their end goal. It's preparation for a war. So, them obviously, them trying to take over Elbaf is not an end goal. It is literally Emu saying, I need soldiers. The Navy's not enough. I need more military might. So, I'm gonna need you jokers to go down to Elbaf, literally steal some kids, so we can put the giants under our thumb, so we can finish this war that we started all this time ago. Let me see. Something interesting is that in Irish mythology, Fraggarok is the sword of Manannán, son of the sea, which is the sea god, and gives it to the sun and war god, Lu of the Long Arm, found it noteworthy. I find, like, when we get, like, notes about the mythology that is linked, knowledge of mythology that's linked to these different weapons, I love the inspiration that Oda just puts into everything. Like, you don't just have, like, Japanese mythology being used to create different things. You got Chinese mythology and Christianity religion, and you have I want to say Mayan, and you have all these sorts of different types of mythologies and deities and religions mixed into one piece, and it's done in such a way that it's like, oh, this man did his research. It's not just tacked on there because it sounds cool. There's a reason why it links back to these things. So I like how Oda does his research, and he's not just throwing these things in there haphazardly because it would be like, oh, this is cool, he added that. No, there's an actual cultural reasoning for him adding this stuff, and I love it when he does that. But yeah, them taking over Elbaf is not the end goal, it's preparation for a war. And then Loki goes, huh? Is the world government getting into a war with someone else? Well, that ain't my problem. My father died an unjust death. His soldiers were killed along with him. I want vengeance for these crimes, that's all. And who's guilty? Who will you strike down? The world government. The man who manipulated Harold was the king of the world. And Jarl are looking like, what do you mean, Shanks? The entire concept of the world government is that there is no one king who... And Gavin immediately tells Shanks, be careful how much you reveal. But Shanks goes, it's fine, no one will believe it. Ha, so I guess that king is a culprit. I'll take his head nice and simple. The king's power is impossible to measure. Go to the Holy Land, and the mystery will only deepen rather than come to light. If it were that simple, someone else would have done it already. And Loki immediately thinks of rocks. It's not yet the time to fight. Shut your mouth, you don't tell me what to do. I don't care where this guy is, I'll destroy anything in my way. And then Jarl's trying to tell Loki, don't be foolish. And then we cut back to the present, where Loki says, I left home and spent a few years abroad. In the end, I never did find my way to him. So if that's the king of the world right there, I'll never get a better chance. And Hotterding goes, a simpleton's idea of a plan. What? But I've got no problem with it. Give me a chance to avenge my father too. And Jinbei's listening going, this is quite an absurd story. If there's a king of the world, then what are the 5 elders for? And mind you, Brook is still trying to tend towards Shuri right now. No, stop trying to interfere if you don't mind. And Chopper goes, he says I froze her because she's dangerous. What, you're the one who froze her? Yes, she was dangerous, but I'm certain that she was being controlled. You see, this girl is like a daughter to me. And Ragnar is confused by this statement simply because Brook is a walking skeleton and Shuri is flesh and blood. So the comparison between the two is kind of lost on him. Then Robin appears, goes, this is all very interesting. Robin, come to the library, Chopper. Oh, Saul. Hey, meaning that Chopper is more than likely going to talk to Biblo because Biblo has information. Biblo the owl has information and I can't wait to find out what it is. But Biblo apparently has information because why else would they be calling over Chopper? Because Chopper can speak animal. Chopper can translate for animals. And the only animal that's inside of the library is the giant owl Biblo, which means that Biblo is about to drop some knowledge on us. So, then we cut back to Emu again, and he brings out a giant hatchet. Next is, This will do more than slash thee. Alas, the third will be Axe of Xingtian. Or I think it's Xingtian. Xingtian. Yeah, Axe of Xingtian, which is just like giant halberd of a giant hatchet. And Luffy's just sitting there huffing and puffing. Then we cut to this seaport in the Western Village, where Zoro's still fighting Sommers with a King of Hell, 3-sword serpent, 103 mercies. Julian, hi. Devil fruits are based off of a Quran verse that mentions Zakum, the tree of devils that resides in hell. So it pulls from all kinds of things to make this story, and it's so fun. I really do like how Oda does incorporate many different religions and different mythologies to just make up everything all over One Piece. Oda is gonna have so much fun introducing and drawing these weapons. Hadn't thought of Biblo before. I actually thought it was for medical reasons, because possibly Stella 2.0 was ready to come out. If I remember correctly, didn't Lilith bring the Stella clone to the old research lab? And I don't think that research lab is close to the Walrus School. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's close to the Walrus School. The first thing that popped into my head was Chopper being able to translate something for Biblo, because the last time we saw Robin and Saul, they were literally at the secret room that Biblo bought every single book to. So the only thing that seems reasonable to me is that since the library is old research lab is connected to the library. No, is it? I can't remember. I can't remember. I can't remember if it's actually connected to the actual school itself, the whole research lab itself. I can't remember. Because if anything, I remember Ripley and Frankie being there before they went on that big massive tour of the tree. Is it connected to the school though? If it is, then that's one thing, but the closest thing that popped up into my head is that they need a translator for Biblo. Because Saul and Robin don't know why Biblo did what he did. Yeah, they don't know why he did what he did, and the only person that can explain would be Chopper. So, we get back to the seaport at the Western Village. Zoro's using 3-sword serpent 103 mercies versus Killingham. And they clash, and Killingham is using a sword called Grom. And Killingham is just laughing his heart out, and he starts giving us massive exposition. 800 years ago, the 19 kings who created this world took an oath of equality, thrusting their weapons into the floor around the empty throne. Blade of Chaos, Tohu, Vohu, Nemesis, Longinus, Stigma, and Muramasa. They are the 19 weapons of those who brought the world to heal. Gotta say, by the way, I'm a bit disappointed Shamrock isn't here for this round 2. I'm not surprised. It's not time for Shamrock to actually start fighting right now. But it is crazy that before we get Shamrock actually fighting, we get Emu fighting. So that's definitely something. We get Emu fighting before we get Shamrock. Shamrock hasn't done anything except let his Cerberus sword do all the stuff, because he said, like, I don't feel like getting my hands dirty. I don't need to even sully my hands. So the fact that we're getting Emu fighting before Shamrock, I find that interesting. But Blade of Chaos, Tohu, Vohu, Nemesis, Longinus, Stigma, and Muramasa. They are the 19 weapons of those who brought the world to heal. The Great One used Omen to bring them back and grant them to us. There are no lies among the legends each family passed down. You see Roronoa Zoro? This is the power that conquered the world. From the Shepherd family, my nose is itchy, sorry. Grom. So this is the sword, this is the weapon of the Shepherd family, Grom. And this is the weapon that was basically used to essentially swear fealty to Emu. And then we get Killingham. This spear has been passed down through the Remo Shifu family, Longinus. So now we have Killingham's spear turned into the Longinus spear, and that's also imbued with Omen as well. And then we get Emu going, thou shouldst be honored to die by the weapons that created the world, as he starts to bring his axe straight towards Luffy, and Luffy can't do anything about it, and he's screaming until there's like this clash sound, and then it shows that Gabin has intercepted Luffy completely, also apparently cutting apart the tree that Luffy was embedded on, and made it fall away so that there's a chance for Luffy to be taken off of this tree by someone else. And Emu is just glaring at Gabin, and Gabin is looking at him with a shadowed over face, which makes me very concerned for Gabin. And that's the end of chapter 1189 and all the chapters we got of One Piece in the month of July. And no Garling fighting either? Not really. Yeah, I feel like it's not yet time. By the way, now we know 14 names of the 20 founding families, leaving 6 more family names we know nothing about. There's still 6 more names. But we did get the names. We did get the names of all the weapons, though. Tohu, Vohu, Nemesis, Longinus, Stigma, Muramasa, Gram, all and Xingtian as well, because if that's a weapon that represents another member of the family, then that's another one as well. Axe of Xingtian. Xingtian. I want to say Xingtian. I want to say Xingtian, but it's not. Xingtian. So that's where we ended. We ended with Emu preparing to basically kill Luffy right then and there, and Luffy had absolutely no way of getting out of it. Now we have Gabin going up against Emu, and Gabin is well aware of being able to harm an individual who has an immortal body. Gabin versus Emu, oh my, that's going to be nuts. Yeah, it is. Kenzo's being kind of loud in the other room. Sorry about that, everybody. And these are, I think, real weapons from our world, not made up names like Yoru or Shusui, so we might be able to know more about them from that. Yeah, because if I wanted to pull this up. Emu. Norona Emu. Hold on, pulling up the page. Okay, there we go. All right, now things are loading in. Thank God. I get so tired when it does stuff like that. Okay, so let me go down here to weapons. So since his weapons are capable of coming out of his Omen ring, that means that long glaive he has, that's also a weapon that belongs to a family as well. Then again, all the weapons we've witnessed look to be incredibly well designed. From the axe, to Fragorok, to Bohu and Vohu and Grom. So if I pull up first 20, I'm going to keep his Devil Fruit off to the side, because we need to speak about that. First 20, weapons, here we go. So, the ones we know of are Grom, which belongs to the Shepherd family. Longinus, which belongs to the Remo Shifu family. And also, if you notice, when it shows the weapon, it actually shows different types of weapons imbued and stabbed into the empty throne. And you see, I see multiple axes. I see multiple swords. I think I see a spear, but there's multiple different types of weapons around the empty throne itself. But yeah, the Grom belongs to the Shepherd family. Longinus belongs to the Remo Shifu family. There's Bohu, Tohu, or Vohu if you're going by the Viz series. Fragorok, Act of Xingtian, Nemesis, Stigma, and Muramasa. So altogether, we have, while the family names of the Sun World nobles have been revealed, it has been stated that they are the descendants of 19 of the first 20. It is yet to be confirmed if those families retain their names. So that includes Figureland, Manmeyer, Jay Garcia, Marcus, Topman, Ethan Barron, Bavet, Satchels, and Rosward. And mind you, all of these weapons have their own page. So if I go to Muramasa, it's probably only going to describe it. Yeah, and it just says, like, Muramasa was a famous Japanese swordsmith who lived between the 14th to 16th centuries. Although his swords were renowned for their quality, they later became regarded as yoto, cursed blades. So if I go over to, let's see, Stigma, we got Nemesis, we got... Hold on, I think he has to go outside. Boys are good. Back to it. So, we got all these different weapons for the nobles themselves. Thank you, everybody, for being patient. And these are, I think... What the... Oh, dog hair. And these are, I think, real weapons from our world. Okay, I read that. The other thing I'm actually actively on the lookout for is Domi Reversi. Still not explained how it works, and I think Oda is priming us to forget it's an option for a bigger moment. Also, Fizz, good to see you. I hope life has been treating you well. So, what we have here is we're seeing more and more capabilities from Emu. And the thing is, the reason why I keep leaning towards the direction that Omen is an aspect of Emu's powers is simply because Omen has clearly shown that it's capable of being used to store objects and summon objects from. Like, literally, it has its own separate space that can be used to store objects and pull items from, or even manifest them. And that Omen can also be used as an explosive, or even an autonomous, I can't even say autonomous ability and aspect that can be imbued into these flames as well. So I really think that Omen itself is an aspect of the Akuma no Mi, because it's just like, if it was something that was so rare but people could learn, then this is a vastly superior ability to Haki if that was the case. But I still lean in the direction that Omen is an aspect of the Akuma no Mi in and of itself, because how else are you able to take weapons that also have the unique property of draining the life of other people, and you can take it out of the ring from your back and then turn an object into a flame, put that back in the ring, summon out another thing from another Omen flame, and it's a completely different weapon. Transmogrification Syndra! Like, what? It's so crazy, the amount of abilities that Emu has, and he's not even trying. That's the thing. We've seen Emu get punched 2 times. However, it's because he's been distracted. But when he's focused and he's using his abilities, no one has been able to fully counter them except for Loki and Luffy, who have basically resisted Domi Reversi. That's the only known people that have been able to fully resist it. Not even Rox could fully resist it, and Rox was one of the most powerful pirates we have ever seen during the time of, like, Roger's Uprising and during the events of God Valley. Literally one of the strongest people in the series during that time. So there's just so many questions, and Shanks was right. And this is the reason why I come back to this. Shanks was right in saying that even if you get to Emu, you're going to be left with more questions than answers. So even if Loki was able to make it to Emu, he would be left with way more questions as to who Emu is, where their power comes from. We don't even know the fullest extent of what Emu can do. And y'all know me, I love looking up devil fruits and the powers of devil fruits and just how vast and how powerful they are. And it's just that I keep coming back to emus. And it is by far the vastest we have seen of any devil fruit's capabilities, due to the fact that it is capable of doing so much that we've seen singular individuals do with just their devil fruit powers alone. But it's just a combination. I do think a lot of the things we're seeing might be a combo between Omen and Akuma no Mi, but I do believe Omen itself is its own thing, again, like how Gear 4 relies on Haki, but we've yet to see the extent of what's Omen and what's the Devil's Fruit, or the extent of what Emu has done either. True. Now, Flip, I know for a fact you're going to stay on the bandwagon that Omen is separate from the Akuma no Mi, and I will permanently, and I will be on that hill amongst many others of Omen being an aspect of the Akuma no Mi. But I find immense joy. And the thing is, I like having these conversations with you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just enjoy because of what these theories create and these conversations that they create as well. But, and I'm not saying but as if to rebuttal what you said. I like just looking into what these powers can do. And among all these, and if it is classified as like a zone class or even a mythical zone class, it might be the most versatile and most powerful mythical zone we have seen next to the model Nika. Because we've seen very powerful mythical Zoans before. I mean, you know, like Sengoku and Kaido. And of course, Luffy. There's literally the most liberating power, the most ridiculous power in the world. But this one seems to be the vastest out of everyone simply because of everything that it can do. So I'll say what I'll say about these chapters is, before we get into the power of Emu and the fact that we really haven't seen the fullest extent of what Emu can do with them. Because I feel like sooner or later, we're going to get to the point where we get like that giant monster that we saw in the mural. Because what we're seeing of right now of Emu, I feel like it's just his, you know, human hybrid state. We haven't seen like the full form of Emu. What we're seeing is just a combination of the two. Oh, that's another thing. Do we know it's a Zoan? Here's the thing. We don't. If it is, then we've only seen the human hybrid version of the two. We only seen the human hybrid version of it. We haven't seen the full creature. I'll say the only thing we learned is ability Devil's Fruit. Yeah, that's the only thing. We don't even know if we can classify it yet, because here it says, given the fruit's unique name and abilities, it is not certain if it can be classified like a normal Devil Fruit. Amongst all the regular Devil Fruits we've seen, it's unknown if we can even classify this in the same categories as every single Devil Fruit we've seen in the entire series. Due to its unique name and abilities, we don't even know if we can... It's like... We don't even know, it's like in the Monster Hunter world, we don't even know if we can classify this creature as an Elder Dragon or something beyond that, such as a Safi'jiiva and a Xeno'jiiva, and even like some of the Apex Predators from Monster Hunter Wilds. We don't even know if we can classify them as Elder Dragons or something beyond that. This is the case with Emu's fruit, and this is the only fruit that has this sort of unique stance amongst all Devil Fruits in the entire series, due to its singular name. Because every Devil Fruit in existence we've known thus far has always been the double names of itself. You know, like Glint Glint Fruit, Dark Fruit, Quake Fruit, Gum Fruit, String Fruit, Flare Fruit, Smoke Fruit. This is the only one in existence that we've witnessed that only just calls itself the Devil's Fruit. It's not even Devil Fruit. It's just called the Devil's Fruit. The Devil's Fruit. We would look at different Devil Fruits differently if it was just called the Quake Fruit, the Dark Fruit, the Gum Fruit, the Smoke Fruit, the Magma Fruit. Isn't Paramecia basically unclassified, like it doesn't fit Logia or Zone, so it's technically a Paramecia? No, because Paramecia is its own classification. Obviously, it's otherwise it wouldn't just be... Paramecia is basically, obviously, Paramecia are basically Devil Fruits that give people superhuman abilities that can either change their appearance or change their bodies physically, or allow them to produce things that isn't exactly an element, nor does it cause them to turn into animals. That is Logia. Logia turns people into natural occurring elements, and Zoans are essentially naturally occurring animals, or maybe even if it's mythical type, it tends to be, animals of legends and mythologies, or if they're ancient types, it tends to be dinosaurs. But Paramecia is basically its own classification. It can't be unclassified if Paramecia is essentially the class of Devil Fruits where it basically alters the human state into that of superhuman abilities, such as being able to create blades out of your body, or chop your body into pieces, or essentially turn your body into a jacket that can be worn by people, which is still a very weird Devil Fruit ability. So we can't say that paramecia is basically unclassified if it's classified by that unique aspect. That's how I feel. I mean, it's always been that way. Because a lot of the devil fruits we see from people who aren't Zoans or Logias is pretty much the paramecia class. Now, if these devil fruits had their names changed and they're actually something true to something else, such as the case of the Gum Gum fruit, and only finding out that it's actually called the Hito Hito no Mi and not the Gomu Gomu no Mi, that's a completely different thing. Yeah, but that's very varied. The devil's fruit feels and works like a paramecia, though Zoan sometimes feels like paramecia x Gum Gum, so yeah, I guess true. But the thing is, the devil's fruit is more than just something that is closer to a paramecia, because Imu's power allows his appearance to change into something completely different. It's not like, oh, he's just shifting his body size into something else. No, he's literally forcibly transforming into something different, i.e., his devil state that he's in. And that's not paramecia. He's not just moderately altering his body to a degree, the same way, have Matt Monk Urouge's still unnamed devil fruit ability after all these years, where he receives damage, but he also grows larger in size. He's not fully transforming into something different. He's still himself, but his body size and mass just kind of grows up a little bit bigger, and he can use all that strength for his own means. He can do that. But with Imu's powers, he is completely transforming his body into something different. I mean, the Age fruit does this same thing, and it's a paramecia. Yeah, it is. But it's not changing. See, the thing with the Age fruit, it is also I want to say it's like a bit of a unique paramecia in the fact that it allows Bonnie to basically kind of like break reality and then reach into different future versions of herself, such as a future version where she's more like Kuma and she gains like the upper body, the body of a buccaneer like Kuma, or a future where she's essentially fighting like Nika. So she's kind of doing something like that, and it's not. But the thing is, with Imu, it is not still paramecia, because while he can... Hold on. But with Imu, while many of his abilities may seem like they fall within the paramecia class, I can't classify him as a paramecia just because he showcases a lot of paramecia type stuff, because he shows a lot of Logia stuff too. Mind you, he doesn't turn into his Omen Flames, but he's capable of producing it endlessly, without end, whenever he wants to. And mind you, the Omen Flames themselves are not a naturally recurring element. The fact that he's capable of producing an endless amount of them, seemingly, points me in a direction that this isn't just your standard paramecia type ability, because he's showcased multiple abilities that falls in all of these categories, but to a much farther and bigger degree. It's not working as a paramecia because you won't have the black clouds on Imu, just like how Kaido says when he first saw Gear 5, saying that it's how a Zoan awakening would happen. The issue with this does boil down to we don't know how it actually changes or works. I do get what you're saying, though, for sure. And the thing is, I'm only basing this off of what we've seen, because I really don't get into, like, major theory crafting. Like, I get into, like, assumptions of where I think things are going to happen, but I don't get off into, like, big major theories or anything like that. That's the reason why you don't see any theory videos, many theory videos on my channel, because I can only base what I say off of what we've seen. And Imu's abilities just strike me as they are too vast for us to just solidify them. We don't even know if Imu is a devil fruit ability. It's called the devil's fruit, but we don't know what that truly means. That's the scary thing. We literally get the name of what his power is called, but we still don't know what that truly actually means. Like, we literally need layman's terms to fully understand what we're dealing with here. And despite all the fact that we've seen so much of his abilities, how vast they are, how powerful they are, how you need to have a very strong will to even resist Domi Reversi, otherwise you fall under its thrall, just shows you that we still, to this day, know next to nothing about what the fullest extent and what this power truly is. And that's what makes it terrifying, because despite everything we've witnessed Imu do, it's still not the max. It's still not something he's using in dire straits, or he's pushed into a corner and then he's unleashing the fullest extent of his power. He literally showed up on Elbaf and started slicing people, started blowing up people, started manhandling everyone, both Zoro and Sanji, as if they were nothing, and then started handling Loki. Oh, you're the son of Harold, your foolish father, and starts handling him. And now he's dealt a very, very grievous wound to Loki, and now he's focusing on Luffy. And now that he's fully focused on Luffy, now Luffy, our main character, our main dude, is now impaled on well, we might as well call it a stump now, impaled multiple times on a tree, just casually by Imu, as if like, I wonder how many of these it'll take. Literally like Itachi using Tsukuyomi on Kakashi. And he's literally stabbing Luffy going, only 72 hours, only 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds to go. Like, it's literally nothing, but we don't even know the fullest extent of what this ability is or what all it can do. So, going through this real quick, and I love reading about it, given the fruit's unique name and abilities, it's not certain if it can be classified like a normal devil fruit. I just came up with, we don't even know he was, I just came up with that, but I actually do like the idea that its power is possession of different devils. So, with going with that idea, would it be like, so it's a different, so now we're bringing up the whole aspect of actual devils within One Piece. So now you're opening that can of worms as to like, okay, so we have actual devils that exist within One Piece now. Now you're opening that door. If that's such a possibility, if that is a thing, and that's just going to lead to even more questions. Shanks once again said it, that even if you found Imu, it would just lead to more questions. It was a two-part comment, but yeah, but it's like you just open up more doors to more questions than answers. And that's the reason why I'm like, even though we're seeing so much of what he can do, we still don't know what all he can do. That's the thing, we still don't know what all he can do. And the fact that he said that Joy Boy was not this weak to contend with everything he's done means that Imu can do way more than this. Whereas and the thing is, it just shows that Joy Boy was indeed stronger than Imu if Imu was rendered on his knees by just 800-year-old Haki. Not even Haki from the present day, Haki from 800 years ago. So it just really puts into perspective how strong Joy Boy was if his Haki alone was enough to bring Imu to his knees. Just from feeling it from miles away, from Egghead to Marijois, and Imu was crying out like, ah! Like, after feeling this Haki, it shows that Joy Boy was on a completely different level than everyone we have ever seen in One Piece. Was Roger strong? Yes. Was Rock strong? Yes. Was Whitebeard strong? Yes. Was Big Mom and Kaido strong? Yes. Is Luffy strong? Yes. But is Garp strong? Yes. But Joy Boy is on a much higher level than them if just the mere feeling of his Haki was enough to have Imu on his knees going like, I can't believe that's Joy Boy. And then you wind up killing one of your elders because they couldn't take out Luffy. That's how angry you are? That's how bothered you are? That's how strong Joy Boy was. So everything we've seen Imu do, I'm pretty sure Joy Boy was able to contend with every bit of it. That's the crazy thing. Everything that Luffy wasn't able to contend with, Joy Boy was probably no diffing Emu, and the only reason why Joy Boy lost was because Emu had all that help. But I'm only going on assumptions here. But the power of Emu is so incredible. Just think about how strong Joy Boy was. If he was able to fight this on the regular, the same way Garp and Roger fought each other. Imagine if that's how Joy Boy contended with Emu even when he had this power. That's the crazy thing. So not only does he possess 19 swords that was pledged to him, he has the power of different devils which he can lend to others once they accept a contract with him, literally a deal with the devil. Pretty much. That's the whole angle of Emu's power. So, going through this, I could go through the whole thing, but I'm not going to because there's just so much to it. But he does, a lot of his abilities are basically use abilities we've seen before. We don't even know how the contracting system works, how he's able to lend people powers, how he's able to possess them, how he can control them with a simple control. There's so much questions to him. Not only that, we don't even know what the upper limits of the covenants actually offer its individuals. Because the Depths Covenant already gives you increased strength and immortality. We don't know what additional stuff those who are under an Abyss Covenant gain. You already gain immortality and increased strength when you're in depths. That's what Harold had. So what does Abyss give you? Because Harold was capable of creating an Abyss Gate when he was in depths. So it's not like the Abyss Gate is exclusive to those who are in the Abyss Covenant level. So it just makes you wonder, what more does the Abyss Covenant offer you? If you already gain increased strength and immortality and the ability to create Abyss Gates. More questions! See, I think Oda set us up. I honestly think Oda set us up. With this one specific chapter saying, like, the closer you get to Emu, you're gonna leave yourself with more questions than anything. And I just keep coming up with more questions about wondering about Emu more and more. Isn't Abyss the ability to transform like the Godosei? No, the Abyss is literally creating the gates that they use in order to teleport around the world. That's not the ability of the Godosei to actually transform into the creatures that they are, even though we still don't know if it's actually devil fruits that they can use to transform into like Itsunade and Bakotsu and, the Gyuki. But we don't know. We haven't seen Garling transform into anything, but I doubt that's the ability that allows him to transform in general. I doubt it. There's absolutely no way that the Abyss allows him to transform into these different mythological creatures from different mythologies. That's not Abyss. That's something else. Abyss is really, if I go down here, Abyss. The fruit allows the user to generate a magic circle known as an abyss, which can enable instantaneous transportation from one location to another. By summoning an abyss on the ground, the user can move themselves to any other location that bears an abyss. Additionally, the user is capable of summoning smaller abyss circles in thin air from their hands that can summon objects such as weapons, which the user can immediately take use of. When a user of this ability transports himself or another person with an abyss, significant quantities of haki are shown being emitted. Emu can grant other people the ability to travel around through the abyss only if they have a covenant with Emu. Notably, while the 5 elders and knights of God have only used the abyss for travel, Emu can make extensive use of the abyss in combat. But Gunko and them could use the portals too, and I doubt they have abyss covenants. Yes. I literally just brought it up. Wait, they have them, though. They have Abyss Covenants. They have Abyss Covenants. Because they were just talking about how only the Godosei and 13 other... the Godosei, only 13 people have Abyss Covenants. Because if I go over here and bring up Covenants... and I go down to the Abyssal Covenant, final stage of the Covenants for subordinates, its symbol and purpose are still unknown, along with who receives it. According to the 5 elders, both the Depths and Abyssal Covenants are reserved for 13 individuals. So, there's Shallows, there's Depths. Let me read your comment again. They could use the portals too, but I doubt they have Abyss Covenants. No, it still allows you to be able to use Abyss, though. You don't have to have the Abyss Covenant in order to use the Abyss. However, you don't get them if you're part of the Shallows. Yeah, those with the Depths and Abyssal Covenants gain the ability to generate an Abyss. Those with Depths and Abyss can create one. So, and remember, don't forget, I just said that Herald was capable of creating one. That's the reason why one was created in Elbaf. Gunko and them could use the portals too, and I doubt they have Abyss Covenants. But yeah, like I said, only Abyss and Depths can create one. When was it said that these are Abyss? I don't remember this being mentioned in the manga. One Piece manga, volume 115, chapter 1169. Yeah, chapter 1169. My death cannot come soon enough. And this is when Harold is being controlled by Emu. Yeah, it's called an Abyss then, back in 1169. I just know them as portals. No, they've been called the Abyss for quite a while now. Yeah, they've been called the Abyss for quite a while. They were first called the Abyss when Killingham was saying, like, well, we can't take the giant children through the Abyss because they lack the Covenant, and this is when they were leading the children away. They mentioned this already, and that's the reason why they went to go put them on a ship, because they can't take them through the Abyss. Didn't we already know them as Abyss Circles when the Gorosei first came in Egghead? They were officially called the Abyss back in 1169. Actually, let me see here. Oh, no, it was far sooner than that. It was far sooner than that. Its first appearance was in 1094. But it was first called the Abyss. Let me see. Let me see. The Abyss is named and its mechanics explained. 1140. The Abyss is named and its mechanics explained in chapter 1140. And that is Scopper Gabin. Luffy asks Gabin why he needs to fight him for the key and insists he just gives it up. And mind you, when Gunko creates the magic circle in order to summon Killingham and Somers, that's when it's called an Abyss. That's when it's mentioned in called an Abyss. So it was all the way back then. What year was this? Hold on, what years was this? Last year, February 24th. That's when we got the name of it the first time. We got its first appearance. Yeah, 1140 is when the knights show up to Elbaf, I believe. It's not when they all show up. It's not when they all show up. It's when Gunko summons Killingham and Somers. This is 2024, no? If you're talking about the year that this chapter came out, then its original release date was issue 13 in 2025 of the Weekly Shonen Jump. And it was released on the 24th of February in 2025. So it was last year. So it's been a year since the Abyss has actually been named. But yeah, we had the Abyss was named all the way back then, so it's always been named. It's always been named the Abyss since last year. So going through all of Emu's abilities, we have the Omen itself, a black flame that the user can generate from their bodies or weapons. Emu refers to it as his military might and has claimed it is power stemming from goal-driven envy. The Omen Flames possess a vast amount of capabilities which enable it to be used for attack, defense, and support in combat. Offensively, it can unleash massive explosions and take the form of just about any weapon, with its shifting time being so fast that it can become a blade that easily impales anyone in its vicinity. Defensively, it has shown itself capable of countering a strike from the monstrously powerful giant Loki wielding Ragnir, which came imbued with Loki's lightning and Supreme King Haki. In terms of support mechanisms, the user has been shown to use Omen to make their own body grow in size, even to the point of reaching giant size. This application can be used more specifically, such as transforming only the arm to strike an opponent who avoided the initial attack. Additionally, by being placed as a ring around at least Coventees like the Knights of God, their bodies are given a boost in strength. The black flames created through Omen seemingly transform into ordinary steel bullets and bombs after their power is expended. They also appear to be sentient and are capable of communicating between themselves to assist the user with their techniques. The flames can even change the user's attacks direction mid-course to chase after an enemy who managed to dodge the initial strike. Omen can also be used to summon the 19 weapons originally used by the first 20 and grant them to recipients of the user's covenants who had been enhanced with Omen, such as when Emu granted usage of the sword Gram and the spear Longinus to Shepard Sommers and Remo Shifu Killingham, respectively. So it's more... I could keep going into it. Since he's almost always inactive due to his secretive existence, Emu's fruit abilities are most commonly manifested in the subordinates he grants covenants to, which are the 5 elders and knights of God. So let's see. Emu rarely chooses to personally engage in any form of combat, which is implied to be due to a mysterious problem that discourages him from leaving the Holy Land for too long. Once again, more questions. Why is he not allowed to be away from the Holy Land for too long? Why was the Godo Sage still trying to keep him from leaving? More questions than answers. Due to usually only appearing outside of Marie-Joie through possession of his subordinates, he instead relies on the Demon Covenant to turn his enemies into demonic allies who will do most of the work for him. When he does engage in physical combat, however, he has been shown to make swift work of anyone who dares to attack him. Rather than allowing for any sort of drawn-out fight, he will utilize small demonic projectiles to blow up his opponents. When forced to use his body, his attacks cause similar explosions as well as black flames. This form of combat appears to be Emu's main go-to for defensive situations, as well as he relied heavily on his transformation and abilities to subdue Nefertari Cobra and Sabo in the Empty Throne Chamber. He used his hybrid form upon arriving to Elbaf to swiftly free his subordinates. Although this left him open to attack, Emu simply allowed his opponents to approach, used his devil tail to block a Supreme King Haki attack from Roronoa Zoro, and took advantage of his large size to easily block and counter a kick from Sanji. When approached by Loki, a giant with ancient giant heritage, Emu adapted by gigantifying his own body to nearly match his enemy in terms of size, allowing him to defend and clash evenly with Loki. So we've already seen Diabolical Covenant, we've seen Domi Reversi, we know Nemesis, which is basically like the super long sword. Initially causing only the hilt portion to manifest, Emu makes the Nemesis blade shoot forth from the crossguard out of pure black flame, impaling his opponent. And it was used to run through Loki. Then we have Zitzi Middle, which is essentially his Omen Flame barrage that he uses to fire numerous Omen projectiles shaped like flaming demon heads, causing massive explosions over a wide area. Then we have Gram, which is a giant sword that he used. Sword of the Shepherd's family. Uniquely, rather than take Gram's standard form as a saber, Emu has instead been seen manifesting Gram as a gigantic glaive with a flaming Omen blade on both ends. By swinging this massive twin-bladed weapon in a circle, Emu was able to deflect giant lightning bolts called down by Loki. And then we have Stigma. With his typical finger circle gesture to cast Omen, Emu launches small fireballs that attach themselves to one or multiple targets. These spheres of Omen function as target designators, subsequently allowing Imu to generate a flaming Suzu bell that, once rung, launches forth a giant flame sword, namely Stigma, another one of the 19 creator weapons. Said sword locks onto the Omen marked spot, allowing it to home in on Imu's target and impale them. This attack is first shown to use against Loki and later Luffy, though it only managed to successfully hit the former. And all of his abilities are just grossly similar to many other singular devil fruit abilities that we've seen before. What's interesting is upon arrival, Imu already looked huge, but Loki is clearly a lot bigger than your average giant, so Imu still had to grow even bigger. Yeah, when Imu showed up, he was already taller than most people. I don't know if he actually... I don't think he was Whitebeard size. I could be incredibly wrong about that, but I think he might have been around Whitebeard size, and Whitebeard was like, what, 21 feet tall? I think it was 22, maybe 23. But even then, he was still shorter than Loki. So he used the power of Omen to imbue into himself, to make himself grow to an even larger giant size. Mind you, still not as big as Loki, but big enough for him to actually evenly fight with Loki. I have so many questions. I have so many questions about all of Imu's abilities that I feel like we're not going to find out anytime soon. We're just learning so much about them. Now, with Gabin clashing with Imu, I feel like we might learn something new. Because if Supreme King Haki, Conqueror's Haki, is capable of bypassing the immortality of another individual, and Gabin lands a hit on Imu, and we already know that Conqueror's Haki is useful against fighting people with immortality or instantaneous regeneration, we might see another explanation, like either it's visual or maybe it's audible, that we find out just a little bit of what can be used to evenly fight against Imu. Now, that remains to be seen, and we're still clearly on break. We won't find out until basically 10 days from now. If Viz is anything to go by, we won't find out until, after next week. But there's just, oh my goodness, there's just so many things about Imu's power. We've gone through this list before. He has the ability to cause things around him to start move and sing as though they become animated creatures, resembling homies created by the soul fruit, able to form a contract between the user, which results in the victim's absolute obedience, which is similar to the Habi no Mi and the Kage no Mi, being able to imbue a shadow into a zombified body and that person just follows the rules of the person who imbued them. Using a book to manifest objects similar to the Buku no Mi, utilizing a circular area for spatial manipulation similar to the Ope no Mi, and that being the abyss, to instantly transport yourself to someplace different. And that's also another thing that is capable, that is, and actually, you know what, that's separate from him being able to teleport himself different places, because that's similar to the warp fruit. Then immortal level regeneration similar to the Tori no Mi model Phoenix. And let's see, additionally, the ability to conjure flames and wield them in battle is also similar to the Tori no Mi model Phoenix, and most prominently, the Meta no Mi. The ability to increase one's body size is similar to various uses of the Gomu no Mi and the Deka no Mi. Also, the ability to elongate and stretch your bodies in similar ways to the Gomu no Mi. Create steel bullets and bombs through black flame similar to the Buki no Mi and Bambu no Mi. Have a sword honed in on its target similar to the Mato no Mi. And being able to instantly teleport yourself similar to the Wapu no Mi. All the while looking like he's a member of the Lunarian race that many of us still don't bring up too often. Because this Joker looks like a Lunarian. We don't bring that up too often. We're always talking about Imu's powers and everything, but we ain't asking the question of why does Joker look like a Lunarian. We don't bring that up often enough. We be all like, oh, he's showcased a brand new sword, a brand new power, his sword Vohu, and his sword Tohu, and he has all these swords, and they can drain the life of everyone. It was all like, why you look like a Lunarian, though? Why you look like King, though? How long is it gonna be before Zoro starts fighting you in a racially motivated fight like he did with King, though? We ain't asking that question because we so captivated by all the things that Imu can do, we ain't asking why does Joker look the way he do. Mind you, we probably brought it up the first time, but we don't bring it up often enough. I do still think that Emu in the form that we've seen them is a good combination of most races, which is so wild how racist they are. Reminder, Killingham hates Fishman, but I mean, it's clearly they are one too. Like a hybrid. Kind of like Dellinger? Yeah, Dellinger. I always bring up that it's a Lunarian. People say it's a devil and they're red. Nah, to me, they're gonna be real tanned. But they're missing the point that Emu has black wings, just like King, who's a Lunarian. He has white hair, just like King, who's a Lunarian. He has tan skin, just like King, who's a Lunarian. How are people not putting these two together? Oh, his skin is red. He's red. Until we get like the volume cover, that shows Emu on the manga itself, like officially what color he is, I feel like Emu's appearance is very similar to that of the Lunarian. It's a hybrid state of his own body, but it's a combination of the devil's fruit aspect that's also imbued on his body as well, which also explains like the different tattoo markings and, you know, different symbols all over his body. I feel like that comes from the Akuma no Mi, but the rest of his skin tone, his hair color, and his wings, that's Lunarian. Which makes me wonder. If Nerona came from the Lunarian race, but got rid of his people the same way Eneru got rid of his. But I'm just grasping at straws. I always felt that there's a comparison between Emu and the Uchihas, Black Flames, Emu's intro pose being really similar to Itachi's iconic pose after he killed all the Uchiha, the Madara complex. You're not wrong. He really does show up the same way Itachi last saw Sasuke after massacring all of the Uchiha. So there is some similarities there. Let me exit out of some of these extra tabs here. But once again, this puts us in a position where we are asking more questions than we're getting answers about Emu. Even if we're getting like these little tidbits when he's meeting Joy Boy for the very first time. And we don't even know if they're meeting each other as adults, but meeting each other as children. We still don't know. This chapter left me with more questions than actual answers. Sure, we found out that the swords and weapons that Emu have been using are essentially the weapons that were left by the first 20. But that's all we get. And also learning that they can drain the life out of people that they're stabbed into or in the vicinity of. I think the Lunarian race came from the Nerona, not the other way around. The races we see today might come from the very clans that oppressed them. I would not be surprised. Because I always go back to what Saturn said to Vegapunk when Vegapunk was basically having the entire island raised in a buster call. The world doesn't need any more progress. So, in retrospect, the world doesn't need to know where it came from. It just needs to know that the world government has been here the entire time, and you just need to do what we say. You don't need to know the history of the world. That's the reason why it's so taboo. Because all this information, all of this racism and xenophobia that the world government literally perpetuates throughout the world. If you're not affiliated with the world government, you're less than nothing. You're trash. You're garbage. You're nothing. You have no rights as an individual if you're not affiliated with the world government. And with this mentality, it has allowed people to literally be overly saturated in racism, in xenophobia, and ostracization of those who cannot pay to have themselves be in the elite class, the first class of living individuals and civilians. Not really civilians, but nobles, essentially. So having this sort of mentality, I would not be surprised if those on top are secretly part have blood in them of races they see as inferior to them, but choose to push this narrative that these races are indeed inferior to them, even though they carry that blood in them. Because Killingham, looking at Killingham, he a combination of something. He ain't no combination of no human. Granted, even if he was just like purely human, he'd be in the same string as Bartolomeo, because Bartolomeo got them sharp teeth too, but he ain't a combination of nothing. But if Killingham is indeed a combination of different races together, then it just puts into perspective that despite his mixed race, he still sees everything beneath him as a noble beneath him. So yeah, Flip, you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if there are mixed races within the Celestial Dragons themselves, but because of their status, they choose not to associate themselves with that part of that other race of themselves, and instead perpetuate this idea that the very race they have blood flowing within their veins is inferior to them in every way. I mean, reminder that Charlos and them are human, but refuse to even breathe the same air as other humans, because to them, their race is Celestial Dragon. Their race is gods. That's what they see themselves as. I'm going downstairs to the lower world because I need a 47th wife. Make sure my bubble is ready because I cannot breathe the same air as commoners. And one thing that I find really unique is the fact that everyone from Marijois apparently sees the very air that is above the clouds as the air of the gods. Because when you think about it, there are no clouds higher than where Marijois is. All the clouds of the world are essentially below the red line. That's the reason why they've never experienced rain. And the fact that they also, scare kids with the stories of the D, and stories of the Davy clan, and stories of buccaneers, and also stories of rain monsters. Because they don't know what rain is like, because they never have clouds. So to them, anything that's beneath the clouds of Marijois is considered contaminated trash air. Anything above the clouds is the only air that they are allowed to breathe, which is why you don't see them wearing their bubbles essentially around in Marijois, because that's the gods' air, which is crazy, because it's like, you do realize that air just goes through the clouds, and it's the same air that you're breathing up on Marijois is the same air you're breathing down, is the same air that everyone else is breathing down below, right? But of course, pretty much almost every Celestial Dragon is too dumb to even think of anything like this. Except for the only smart Celestial Dragons are really the ones who aren't even a part of the usual posse that we all hate so much. Like Charlos and Rosward and Shalria and all the regular ones. No, it's really just the Godosei, the Holy Knights, and Emu. They're the only smart Celestial Dragons. Everybody else is an idiot, pretty much. They're oblivious and they're oblivious and stupid about the most basic of things. There's really, and thankfully for Emu and the elders, it's a good thing that these Celestial Dragons are actually so high on their own power that they're too stupid to pay attention to even the smallest things, that they would know that half the stuff they've been told, or even told to as kids, would be wrong. There's not really any intellectual Celestial Dragons except for the ones who actually rule over the rest of them. Just keep these children, keep these man children and these women children just stupid and oblivious. Because it just works better for us. Just let them do whatever they want, but don't tell them, Jack. Don't tell them nothing. They're even afraid of rain, which is really weird. The human thing is to play and dance in the rain, etc. Yeah, but they don't see themselves as human. That's the thing. They don't see themselves as human. They see themselves as gods, above reproach, above moral standing, above anything that I think we would see as questionable, like human slavery. Obviously, it's wrong. The fact that there are still people in this world who refuse to acknowledge that slavery is wrong is so insane to me. But slavery, wrong. Celestial dragons, it's a commodity. Tearing children away from their parents is just another act of entertainment. Wiping an entire country off the map and hunting its denizens is a sporting event for them. That's not even hyperbole. Literally, the events of God Valley started with that. They see anything that is amusing to them, whether it be the death of a regular civilian, hunting them down, razing an entire country to the ground for its resources, force-feeding people devil fruits because they find it entertaining to see people with devil fruits be mistreated because it's just a form of entertainment to them. Cursing an individual to never swim again, but giving them powers because it's simply an act of entertainment to them. I do think Shalria is becoming smarter like Miasgard. She is the only one out of the group that was questioning like Void Sentry, Joy Boy. She is literally the only one member out of the Celestial Dragons who was like, when she heard this from Vegapunk, she was questioning it. The only Celestial Dragon to question. Mind you, we don't know if that's going to cause her to question even more, but the fact that she's the first one to do so, after the last time we saw Shalria, she was, preparing to shoot Kami back in Sabaody, and she got knocked out by Rayleigh. But it remains to be seen. Conduct a genocide to countries they please? Yeah, every 2 years, mind you. Every 2 years. Now the question is, how long has it been since the last one? Because if it's every 2 years, and the Straw Hats went 2 years, the Straw Hats went 2 years to get stronger over the time skip, is it about around time for the next hunting expedition, the hunting competition? Is it around that time? Did it happen during the time skip? Or is it around time for it to happen? If it's every 2 years, shouldn't 2 years be up? The last one that we know of is God Valley, but that was over several years ago. That was over several decades ago. Well, not several. Yeah, it was several decades. It was like a handful of decades ago. It was like, what, 50, 60 years ago? So shouldn't it be time for another one? But this is the thing though. I think it's likely that there hasn't been one since God Valley. Yeah, because we really haven't heard characters talk about like some sort of hunting event for the Celestial Dragons. Because the last one we had was literally the God Valley incident. If anything, I would say the events of God Valley may have put like a almost indefinite hiatus on hunting competitions due to the craziness that went down from that one event. And given the fact that Celestial Dragons are incredibly cowardly when they lack the power to make things happen the way they want to, I'm pretty sure I want to assume that they probably got too scared because of the potential of more people showing up and having a big knockdown drag out battle like what happened at God Valley. But I could be completely wrong. I used to think that Brooks Country could have been one. I think that was just a war that just happened simply because Esperia refused to give over its people in order to pay for the tributes. That was just a straight up war, and the world government decided to, teach Esperia a lesson. And that led to the backstory that we know of today. But these chapters in the month of July, they were all good. Very good. And seeing Luffy, you guys brought this up many times, the fact that Luffy has not left his Gear 5 state, despite being grievously injured like this, more injured than he's ever been. The fact that he's still in Gear 5 speaks well to his endurance and sustainability of his powers compared to when he was using it before. Because when he got tired, I mean, he didn't stay in Gear 5 too long, and when he left it, he would become heavily emancipated. And even when it was Gear 4 and he faced off against Kaido, he got knocked out of it instantly and just floored, and then put into servitude in Udon. Then he faced off against Kaido again, and he got beaten again. But here, we have him facing off against literally one of the strongest people within One Piece. And he still hasn't left his Gear 5 state yet. Normally, he'd be knocked out, or he would leave that form because of him losing strength. And clearly, his haki, he is getting weaker because even Jinbei can sense it. But he hasn't left that state yet. So it really does speak to how much stronger Luffy has become. Yet it's not enough. Because he's been impaled twice in the chest already. I wouldn't be surprised if the story heads towards another hunting event because Marie Joie is not doing well morale-wise. I can see Garling bringing it back to make them feel better from the food shortage. That's the same thing I'm thinking of. They're running low on food. The revolutionaries are sabotaging the gondolas that keep going up and down so they can't eat any food. They're running out of food. So what's the best way to procure more food? Go take it from a whole nother country. And to ensure that no one else actually rebels against this or tries to stop us, let's turn it into a competition and start killing all the people in the country. Whichever country is closest to Marie Joie. Whichever country is unfortunate enough to be closest to Marie Joie. So if we haven't had a hunting competition in quite a long time, this food shortage from Marie Joie might be the catalyst for them to have another one. Because they starving. Having chicken, having fish instead of lobster? Oh, the humanity. Oh! I wouldn't be surprised. And Garling was the one who suggested that God Valley be the next location for the hunting competition as well. He was the one who suggested it. Wouldn't be surprised if he's the one to suggest yet another one. It'll, like you said, it'll help with morale and it'll help us recoup our loss of food and items that were destroyed when the revolutionaries came by. It would be the perfect opportunity. And you know how it could possibly happen? When Emu comes back. I don't say it because of resource gathering, though I assume it'd be part of it. I just think it's for morale. Yeah, I see it as them just getting stuff. I do see it as them getting, materials and stuff back. Not just for increasing morale, but also, replenishing their stock as well, so that there's not much complaining in Marie Joie. So it kills two birds with one stone, while killing every other bird with more stones after that. But I feel that'll only happen when Emu comes back to Marie Joie. Because it can't happen now. There's far too much going on for it to happen while Emu is away. So I feel like when Emu gets back to Marie Joie, we could have that. You know what? Would be crazy if they pick Orange Town. Not the mayor and Cho-Cho. No! It would be messed up if they went to Orange Town. Because wasn't that like the first major town with our first big major villain? Because I don't count Alvida or Captain Morgan as first big major villains for Luffy to have to face off against. But that I do count Buggy though as a big first major threat, like a first big named major threat. And that's the first big major town that they go to. So going all the way back to our first major villain encounter for Luffy and the Straw Hat crew, and that's a location where they start the competition. That would be kind of not ironic, but poetic. And going back to where our first major battle all began, and we go back to Orange Town. We are still missing context from Nojiko as to what happened when they were kids, and Nami obviously doesn't know what happened to their original home. Oh, wait, I meant Windmill Village. Oh, Windmill Village. I'm out like Orange Town. Orange Town? That seems more like that's Buggy's territory with the old mayor who wanted to fight Buggy and then Cho-Cho the dog. But Windmill Village, that would definitely be something. But then again, I feel like Windmill Village, I don't. That could be interesting. It'll be another Luffy help me moment. But we'll see. But I said all that to say this. Let me go ahead and start to wind things down, because how long have I been live? Oh, wait, I gotta refresh my page. Sorry. 2 hours. Wow, 2 hours then flew on by. Overall, my overall opinion for the One Piece chapters that we got in July is that all 3 of them were good. And Luffy is in a very dire situation. Far more dire than when he was fighting Kaido. Because he's not, like, gonna be able to get up because his devil fruit is awakening and he smiles and it's all like, oh, time for round 2. No, this Joker's getting impaled for long periods of time. This isn't like when he was impaled on the hook of Crocodile and left to die. This is like, this person intended to kill him and watch him die. It's not like, oh, I'm going to leave you impaled here. It's like, no, I want to see the light leave your eyes. And I'm not going anywhere. The only one who's standing in the way of Emu and killing Luffy is literally the left hand of the Roger Pirates himself. So, it remains to be seen if Gabin survives this encounter. I would like for him to, but if this is the end of Gabin, then I honestly can't think of any better way for Gabin to go out than fighting one of the most powerful individuals to show up in One Piece in a one-on-one fight. If that is the case. But as far as Luffy doing more, I don't know if he's going to be able to do any more. Because we've never seen Luffy impale twice in the same instance. We've never seen him stabbed and impaled twice through the chest. This is good. This is about as bad as when Luffy needed like a blood transfusion. No, this is worse. This is worse than when Luffy needed a blood transfusion in order to come back from this fight with Hody Jones. This is more than Luffy needing to like fully heal after suffering so much immense poison from Magellan and impaled down. This is more than Luffy needing a whole bunch of food to just get his strength back. This Joker been impaled. He hasn't been beaten into submission. He's been impaled through the chest. That's organs being stabbed through. You know what's up here? Your lungs, your heart, your stomach. It's not down here because that's where your intestines are. Organs. Organs have been punctured and lacerated. The internal organs. You can train hockey all day, every day for the outside of your body. But as Big Mom has clearly shown, no amount of defensive measures you take on the outside can protect you on the inside. Because there has been no person who's survived getting impaled and acting like it wasn't nothing. Not even Garp, who was stabbed by Shiryu, was acting like nothing happened. He clearly knew that, oh, I just got stabbed. I'm still strong enough to take you guys on, but I'm clearly aware that I got stabbed. So that's the situation we're in right now. Our main character has been wounded in a way we have never seen, and the only person who's capable of saving him right now in this point in time is Gabin. Stab through that sword's too big to puncture and lacerate. They're obliterated. He somehow still has Gear 5 active, though, even after all these things. You know what'd be crazy? You know what'd be absolutely hilarious? If Oda says that with Luffy being able to manipulate his body any way he wants to, he moved his organs to keep them from being punctured. Wouldn't that be hilarious? What time is it? It's 3:45 on the 31st of July in 2026. I'm saying it now. If Oda goes the route of like, oh, he moved his organs around in order to keep them from being fully punctured, I'm gonna laugh out loud. There's a very, very, very slim chance that Oda goes in that direction. Very slim chance. And I'm not putting any money on it. I'm just saying it would be funny. It would be funny if Oda tries to pull something like that. And I'm not going to say I know Oda, but it would be funny if he did it. And just seeing the internet discourse of I can't believe Oda pulled it so that Luffy moved his organs around so that they wouldn't get punctured in his own chest. Honestly, his scars and eyeballs have become a sticker at one point, so nothing's off the table. It'd be funny. It would be funny. But we're going to have to wait and see how Luffy recuperates from this. Because this is the worst Luffy's ever been injured. And I keep saying that, but obviously, this is the worst he's ever been injured. So we're going to have to see what Gabin has in store. Because mind you, when he was fighting Luffy and Zoro, he really wasn't even fighting to the best of his ability. He was just testing their strength. Then, when he wanted to fight Summers all like, oh snap, it's Gabin! And Gabin was fighting to save his son. Now we have Gabin stepping in to save Luffy the same way Rayleigh stepped in to save Zoro. So this is yet another member of the Roger Pirates who's coming in for the last second rescue. Because remember, Kizaru was preparing to completely kill and obliterate Zoro right then and there. Then in comes Rayleigh in that beautifully animated scene where he comes in and kicks away Kizaru's leg. Now we have Gabin coming in and deflecting away Ibu. Now the left and right hands of the Roger Pirates have stepped in to save members of the Straw Hat crew. I mean, in all honesty, it's the only way to keep him alive. That's definitely both lungs gone, no transplant currently. With help of that, have some trust in Chopper. He probably has some drug. Like, give Luffy a rumble ball. Give him a rumble ball so that way he can go gum heal. Or something ridiculous. But overall, let me just bring this to a close because I kept you guys here long enough as it is. I don't intend to reach levels of reverie times of length, even though the people over the individuals who do reverie with Roger's Bates and everybody, they can go on for hours. But I think I said everything that I needed to say about these chapters. These chapters have been really good in July, and I can only imagine what August is going to bring. Because how does one continue this story after witnessing Luffy being injured and harmed to this degree? How do you continue from here? But that's all I got. CDs, afternoon. Hey, what's going on? You're coming in on the very end of the stream, buddy. You're late. You are late, sir. Where have you been? You've had an assignment. The Reverie was really nice this year. Wish they do it more often, like twice every year. But I think Roger was saying like he was trying to cut back on it because it comes to he's not trying to have too many new people chime in. So I'm like, oh, well, there goes my chances of being in a Reverie for a while. But I feel like when it comes to reveries, you also need to factor in a lot of time zone differences with people because not everyone lives on the east side, not everyone lives on the west side. Some people live in different countries entirely, so getting people to come together at one time, especially when people have other jobs and other things that they're doing, it can be tricky. It can be tricky to narrow it down where people can dedicate more than several hours of their time to one particular thing. So I can understand why Roger doesn't do it as often. Because it takes a lot of planning, a lot of patience, and making sure things line up. There's way more to it than just trying to like get people together and then just do it. So I understand why Roger doesn't do it as much. Question? But go ahead and ask your question. I know you say you just got off work 10 minutes ago. But yeah, go ahead and ask your question because I'm about to bring this to a close today. But yeah, I hope your day has been good, CDs. Good seeing you. But I said everything I needed to say about One Piece for this month. When will we get Dragon Shine moments? Remains to be seen, because I feel like Oda's still keeping that bullet in his chamber for now. He's been firing off with all these Emu things. He's been firing off with all these Luffy things and all this Elbaf stuff. But he's still waiting. Tired of waiting on him? Then you need to be watching for other stuff. He asked for schedules and works around us. We had to delay hours a week because not everyone could make it. Exactly. It takes so much planning to do this. And making sure everything lines up with everyone in a way that's comfortable for everybody so they can be there for as long as they are capable, but not too short where they can just be in 5 minutes and then you don't see them again. It takes time, so I understand it. I feel he's going to pull a banger. Of course he is. But right now, we're kind of focusing on the fact that Emu is literally is the person to beat and the person to match this point in time. And I'm not even going to get started on Blackbeard because, I mean, we've already gone long enough and that'll have to be a whole separate conversation altogether. But you have a small question? By all means, go ahead. And then I'll go ahead and close things out for today. So we're still on break, so we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait and see how Oda's going to bring this thing out. How we're going to resolve this and have Luffy come out of it better than he was before. And if this is going to be an eye-opener for Luffy, and realizing that his opponent is far stronger than he could have ever possibly imagined, and he needs to lock in. So it remains to be seen, so we're going to have to see. Something's been messing with my stinking eyelash. I hate it when you get the eyelashes that are really, really small, and then they're just on the edge. I still think final villain is Buggy. Would you guys feel okay if Dragon was a really intelligent mastermind that pulls all the strings from behind for the Revolutionary Army, but was not that strong? I mean, given the fact we truly don't know the strength of Dragon, he's kind of already doing that already. We know that everyone follows Dragon without question. Everyone looks to Dragon for the next orders and what they need to do next. Despite them being many captains of the Northern, Southern, Eastern, and Western forces, I feel like Dragon is already fulfilling that role. He's already doing that. He's already operating like that. The moment when he starts actually doing stuff physically, like fighting and whatnot, that's when he'll change from being like the mastermind pulling the strings from behind the RA to being like fully in front. Because remember when Sabo tried to fight Dragon and Sabo basically got dragged? Remember, Sabo was was also got some of his training, like physical training, from Dragon too. Like, he has no insane feats in terms of power. He can't keep up with, like, admirals or something like that, but he has matchups for each and every player. Kind of like Batman, contingency plans for everyone. Not everyone needs to be strong. You do if you need to be in the new world, either strong or very smart. Either one of those two things. Or in Buggy's case, oh my goodness. In Buggy's case, you have to be extremely lucky. Even luckier than Luffy. Ugh. Where did that piece of dust come from? Oh my goodness, that thing tried to take me out. They don't want me saying nothing about Dragon. They don't want me saying nothing about Dragon. I can't say nothing about Dragon no more. They try to choke me out. But I think of it like Pixis from Attack on Titan. Ooh. Speaking of Attack on Titan, we're going to get the release date for Attack on Titan 3 on August 3rd. They're going to announce it then. Any knowledge about the Mother Flame? Nothing more about that. Drink some water. Oh, don't worry, I will. But he's the son of Garp and the father of Luffy, so he will be strong most likely. Yeah, most likely he will be strong. But the way Dragon is behaving right now, he already is fulfilling the role of mastermind behind the RA. It's the revolutionaries they got to him. Nope. It ain't the revolutionaries. The revolutionaries are the good guys. It's the Holy Knights trying to choke me out by putting me under a depth's covenant. I'm sorry, the only covenant I have is with Jesus, and you ain't gonna get me out of that one. But overall, good chapters of One Piece. And I enjoyed every single one of them. August is going to be interesting to see where we go from here and how Luffy recovers and in what manner he's going to move after this encounter with Imu. And especially, we also need to concern ourselves with both Zoro and Sanji as they're fighting both Summers and Killingham, respectively, and how those fights are going to turn out. And whether or not Usopp is finally going to fully start to awaken observation haki, because it's been far too long. But we'll have to find out later on. Other than that, this was a good session, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me on this reflections of One Piece chapters within the month of July, and I would love to see you guys in the next thing that I do. With that being said, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Even check out my membership here on YouTube or me over on Patreon, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. And because I know you're coming back anyway. Have a fantastic day. I will get some water. And once again, as always, later, peoples.